Today is Tuesday, October 28th, and this is the Community Preservation Committee. This meeting is being recorded. I'm going to take roll call according to who's on my screen from left to right. That's you, Andrew. Andrew Boardman from the Planning.
Andrew Boardman from the Planning Board.
Excellent, thank you. And Bill?
Bill Kameza from Natural Resources Commission.
Thank you, Bill. Diane?
Diane Proctor, Select Board appointee.
Ed?
Edward Larner, Housing Authority appointee.
Nancy?
Nancy Nelson, Historical Commission representative.
And Matt?
Matt Boger, Concord Recreation Committee.
Awesome. And Burton?
Burton Flint, Matt Boger's lookalike this evening, and Select Board appointee.
That's great. Burton, do you know if Jeff is coming too?
He is rushing home from the Transportation Advisory Committee Select Board thing, who will be joining momentarily.
Great, and I know there's a planning meeting tonight too, so it's a booked evening.
Yep.
I appreciate everybody coming here an hour early. Oh, I'm Eve Eisenberg, Select Board appointee. I just want to read a really quick statement. The CPC stands united with the town manager, the schools, and all the residents of Concord who condemn the recent actions toward Dr. Lori Hunter and the school committee. Behaviors such as crank calls, slow drive-bys, sneaking around at night to set up effigies with violent messages, or any other attempts to make people feel unsafe in their homes and their jobs are not how we treat each other. This is not clever or funny. It is offensive to all of us and must end immediately. I'm happy if any of my other committee members want to say anything too.
I'd second that.
I just want to
Okay.
endorse it.
Yeah,
Me
absolutely.
too.
I'd like to endorse it and say someone who grew up in Concord feels so proud to be in this community that if someone stumbles, we're there to correct them, to support each other in all cases. So I think the schools are fantastic, and that's more than half the reason why people move to this fantastic community.
Thank you, Matt. Yeah, I agree.
Bravo.
Okay, so we have a super full agenda, and I appreciate everyone coming early because, as you may or may not know, I turned into a pumpkin around 9:30, having been up really early. And so I appreciate this rather than dragging late. We have lots of extra stuff that's come in about the amenities building, and then we have a full agenda of 6 or 5 applicants to listen to starting at 7 o'clock. If we can get through this giant pile, we'll take a break and just go dark for a few minutes until 7. And I apologize, I think most of you got this today. This is the most important piece of paper. It is it's from Bob Conry, and it's answers to a whole bunch of questions that some of us had during the site visit, and other questions. Did everybody get a chance to see this?
Yes.
Yes.
Loads of nodding heads. Oh, sorry, Diane?
Yes, did you say, I think there's 6 other projects that we're meant to address. Is there one that is no longer on the agenda? I'm just trying to.
No, it's on the agenda. Alyssa will be telling us why the housing production plan is withdrawing. So that is the
Oh, okay. Thank
the
you very
6th
much.
application that's not really happening anymore.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so this is kind of awkward to do it this way, but I'm tempted just to go through each of his answers real quick and just see if anybody has any questions about all of this, because some of these were asked by Diane and some were asked by me. Unless someone has a better idea, I'll ask Ann to throw this up on the screen, or I could do it, Ann, if you don't have it. Everybody's in a bit of a disarray, but this is the most important thing.
One small comment. It was this document put up on our website as additional materials received?
No, there's a bit of a confluence,
late.
perfect storm where people were going on vacation at the same time that
Okay.
this was asked for, and it came in a little late.
Okay,
And then at the last minute just got sent out.
fair. And totally understand. I just asked that it eventually get up there so that everybody's seeing all our deliberative materials. And also because I have this disconnect between being able to access my personal email on my work computer, and so I can't see it. Anyway,
Even
thank
more
you.
reason to put it up on the screen.
Yeah.
Heather or Ann? Oh, Ann, great, thank you. Yes, this is what we're looking at today. So one of the major questions that Diane brought up during our site visit that we all had was what was happening with the sewer connection, because we all hear rumors about how our town sewer is tapped out. And
And
so
Eve, during their presentation, we asked the question as well.
that's true. Yes. So I got, the meeting minute meeting, which was when this was brought up, and it was May 14th, 2025. And anyone can go onto their website and see their meeting minutes. And D4 is the section where the amenities building sewer capacity was discussed. And I think that there are remaining questions. Is that how you would characterize this, Diane? I know you were on it too.
Yes, I would so characterize it.
Okay, so it does seem like that there is more work to be done to evaluate whether, or how rather, this building will get connected to our sewer, but it seems to me that it's in motion at the same time as all the funding procurement is happening. And then it says we will keep the CPC committee updated on this front for the next few weeks. So I think they're actively trying to sort this out. Which is not super satisfying, but at least everyone understands that this has got to get some answers. The second thing is about the concession area. Again, Diane, I think you brought this up during our site visit. Would you like to summarize what you were asking during the site visit for those who weren't there?
Well, Gale Associates, this is the concession part of the plan. And the question actually we asked during their presentation, whether if the concession area was not included in the design, would the building cost less? So in other words, what is the concession area contributing to the cost of the building? And they have answered it by saying that actually it might increase the costs to remove it, particularly because it would require a redesign on the part of the architects and others for the concession section to be removed. I also sensed from what they wrote that this was a way in which they could actually raise money, because people want a good concession stand down by the playing fields. And so this is perhaps an asset in fundraising for the schools.
Mhm.
Please,
Yeah, that's
anybody
good.
correct me if I've misspoken.
I think that's a good point.
He also, I believe, mentioned at the time that it was probably the only sponsorship opportunity they had.
That's what I
as a
meant
way
by
of
raising
getting
money.
some sort of money. Yeah.
That's what I meant. Sorry if I didn't say that well. I see my volume is very low, Andrew. Thank you.
Speaking for just myself, I have to say that this is a very snarky answer, saying removing the concessions area alone will leave the remainder of the current floor plan unchanged, will result in an L-shaped building footprint. Come on, that's not cool. But anyway, yeah, so but the main points were exactly what Diane said, which was that this is and Andrew said that this is a good way to raise funds. Okay, next. So this is a big one. Other funding sources pursued here. It looks like this municipal ADA grant. I looked into that, and it looks like that could supply up to $350,000 also for grant from the state. I don't know how wealthy the state is feeling these days, but that's what they do, is they give grants for people to promote ADA access to municipal, state, and federal buildings specifically. So that could work for them at some point, but it does look like that most of the other funding sources have not really come through.
Mhm.
It doesn't say here about raising money using the concession stand.
No, that was simply implied, I felt, in the answer to question number 2.
Right.
It doesn't really say anything about their fundraising or intent to fundraise,
No.
right?
They funded the feasibility study already, and they've set aside money for sewer connection. But you're right, there's not I mean, they tried with the town meeting, obviously that didn't work. The
Right.
Carlisle CPC, I got a chance to talk to Barney Arnold at the Carlisle CPC about their funding of this building, because it's almost like a joint application. And they apparently have a much more relaxed, loose schedule. Their applications are not due till January. They only have to close their warrant article and get things published about a month before their meeting, which is usually in late April or May. And they have apparently a rather large what do you call it? An unmarked general fund. So even though that they collect about 625 to $725,000 a year with the match, depending on the match, they have, I know she said they have like $1 million in housing reserve, and they have a general reserve as well. So while the ask to the Concord CPC doubled since the spring, theirs didn't double, but she said that they were just going to wait to see what was needed for this building.
So Eve, on those numbers, because that's a really interesting point. I hadn't looked at that. Is it, I would assume that the split of the total cost from each CPC would be equivalent to the split that's done for school funding for the Joint School Committee. Is that what the ask is, or has ours?
An excellent question, Burton, that I don't have an answer to. All I know is that when you were chair, Burton, and this
I
came
can't
to
remember.
the CPC, you don't remember. The CPC for Concord was asked for $750,000.
Right.
And
But
the amount.
they were also looking to get general fund funding. And I would just want to make sure that each town was, well, it would make sense that each town's CPC were contributing a split. Andrew, do you know? Yeah. Sorry.
At the walkthrough, he did say that that was their plan, that Carlisle's was actually shifting up a little bit based on current school enrollment numbers.
Well, that's not really reflected in the current application, because I think the amount coming from Carlisle is even a few dollars less than what was requested last spring. So something's different.
Well, what it may have reflected is that they were also seeking general fund money from Concord, from the town. So I guess I
see what you're saying.
Right. So the request to CPC, Concord's CPC doubled, but I believe they're not going to the town for funding for any general. So I'd be curious if in the 2025 application, if the amount asked from our CPC and the Carlisle CPC reflects the current split for school funding at the Joint School Committee.
Yeah. Okay. Now I understand what you were saying, and I think that's probably another good question to ask. But I'm assuming that that's what they did. Anyway, and is there anything else in here, or does anybody see anything else in here that I didn't?
Well, here's a question. Normally, when we're looking at this kind of thing, or when an application comes in, don't we? I haven't been involved that long, but don't we see where the source of other funds are? In this case, there's no real other source of funds except for the CPC from Carlisle. Nothing else in this has any. I mean, it's not likely that the municipal ADA grant will be known before we make our decision. Doesn't that seem correct?
Yeah, I think you're right.
It does seem correct. Yeah.
So that means whatever we do, we have to assume that we are the source of funding for this. That's one thing, right?
That was my takeaway from the presentation on October 7th.
Yeah. And so that it's not likely they would give us money back if the municipal ADA grant comes through. I doubt that would happen. I don't know if we could work that in. There was something else by looking, and I like Burton's point about the Carlisle Community Preservation Committee and their how much money they're willing to bring forward. However, we keep on arguing that this is not simply a school building, and it's going to be used by the public. And my assumption in that case has been that it's going to be the Concord public. I don't. Maybe it'll be some folks from Carlisle, but it clearly falls more into our area than it does theirs. That's all.
Thank you. Jeff, would you mind saying who you are and that you're a select board appointee?
For sure. Jeff Collins, late to the meeting, 55 Highland Street,
You don't have to give your address, Jeff.
Sorry, I've come from 3 other public meetings. I was part of the package. Select board appointee. Thanks, Eve. Just to Bill's comment on the other fundraising, back to point 2 in the school committee's response, the superintendent's response, about the concessions area. The bottom of that says, recognize this as a key area for potential fundraising. So, you know, that's out there in addition to point 3, other funding sources. The last one, we're actively researching relevant Massachusetts foundations. You know, potentially there's private fundraising from foundations or from the booster groups who would be able to benefit long-term from the concession space and from the whole building.
Yes. Diane?
Yeah, I was just going to confirm and support what Bill said, which is that this really is used by lots of teams in Concord that are not associated with the school athletic program. And so I think that that's also part of their planning. And so therefore this becomes as much a school asset as it does a municipal asset. If we speak of Concord as a municipal, a town asset.
Right. Okay. Okay, so that's the other fundings pursued. Then there was a question about ADA access to the pad and then the use of the existing paved pad. I don't know that we need to go through that. Okay, composting toilets was one of the options that they looked at, and it was in their application why they just chose not to go further into that. But it's still, you know, it's still attractive to think about. And so we asked about it again, and then this was our latest response. I mean, I'm not sure what they're going to do if they don't get town connection. They might have to consider this again, but it's probably something that will happen later, like then getting the funding after they've gone through the DPW process too. My favorite is the user acceptance behavioral issues line item. I don't know if anybody here has ever used a composting toilet much, but I have, and I don't like them. But, you know, it's better than nothing for sure. It's way, way, way better than nothing.
For sure.
We asked the question vis-a-vis as a learning system for students, a way to see how we can, in a green world, have outdoor toilets. That was really the question we asked when they presented.
Right. Every composting toilet I've ever been associated with has been a temporary solution for something else.
Okay.
But Ed?
Yeah, I was the one that brought up in question, you know, during the site visit about the composting, and I agree that it's probably not a very, very attractive alternative. But talking to other people after we did the site visit, someone brought up the fact that they had been at a very fancy backyard wedding, and they had provided very fancy, large. I wouldn't even call them porta potties. I guess it was just, you know, portable bathrooms and so forth.
Right.
So if they do not get the sewer, you know, thing, I think it kills the project. So they should be looking at all the kind of alternatives, and you know, maybe the composting is probably the worst of all alternatives, but you can't have a bathroom without some kind of sewer, you know, process.
Mm-hmm. It's the handling of water. Like most of the composting toilets I've been in, we've been in houses where people are renovating their houses, and there's still a water hookup. But water, as you all know, also goes through the town sewer to wastewater. It doesn't just go in the ground unless you come up with a septic system, which they're not going to do in this case. So anyway, Matt?
Yeah, hi, this is a great conversation. I know in White's Pond, they have bathrooms that they put in during the summer and then turn off during the winter. So a little bit of kind of what Ed was talking about. And I do know that Fenn during graduation brings in very nice big bathroom things like for weddings that can be used. But I think that's I hope we don't have to consider those, but that could be worth digging into further.
Okay, yeah, thanks. Thanks, Matt. Is there anything else on this list? This might be it.
I have one question. Last year, Bill, when they were presenting, you asked an interesting question. You said that in your experience, you have rented very user accessible porta potties.
Mhm.
And can you elaborate on that, or would you prefer not to?
Who is that for, Diane?
Bill,
No.
That's for Bill Kamiza. He mentioned that he has used in various operations that he's been involved in, very elaborate and accessible for handicapped people, portable porta potties. And I just wondered if he could choose to just comment on that for us.
Diane, same thing. I not much more to elaborate. We didn't have enough. We didn't have any room for also for a sewage hookup in the city of Boston for Boston
Right.
College High School. So we had to get some very elaborate portable units for people with who are disabled. They've worked because we made sure we had as many of them that would be necessary as we did the standard portable toilets. I mean, it's not the best thing, but it did work, and it did work. It's worked for us.
Thank you. I just wanted to hear, exactly what
Yeah,
that
it's
meant,
possible. Yeah, it is
because
possible
it's
to do.
been on my mind. So thank you very much, Bill.
Sure.
Jeff?
Thanks, Eve. So when we walked out at the site, I'm looking at point 6 here. Accessibility during graduation, although that's not really quite maybe not the right header, but this talks about access by individuals using wheelchairs to the new facility, the new toilet building, from the accessible parking kind of at the northeast corner of the football field. And I guess, and it says here, we recognize it's suboptimal, highlights the need for improved infrastructure. I think that's not referring infrastructure just to this new amenities building, but is this referring to another path to get to the amenities building? Eve, would it be okay if I shared my screen?
Yeah, you don't have to ask me. I think Anne can make you a host or
Oh,
something.
sorry about that. I'll send a request. I saw that I had the. All right, sorry. You can see that?
Yes.
Yes.
So amenities building down here, we were on our walk, folks pointed out the reserved accessible parking spaces here and this gently sloped access point here down, to this paved area and then onto the turf. So the question we had is, how do people get here? I suppose there's a question of how do viewers get to the home side if they want to watch on that side? How are they going to get here? Because this stretch here is on the turf and it would be behind the visiting football team, et cetera, et cetera. There's no sort of paved level path around. I glanced and I suppose you could roll under the back of the stands, but I'm not sure if that works. And of course, the other alternative is parking up here and the accessible sloped route this way, which is an alternative. So there's a question about, I guess, the true accessibility from the parking area, and then that reference in that response to the need for additional infrastructure, and is that future acts, or how does that work?
So Jeff, looking at this, right? So the stadium obviously had to meet accessibility requirements when it was built. Well, I should say obviously, but I presume so. And we know that there's that wild snaking route down, which provides direct access to, I guess that would be the southwest corner where the
Tennis
asphalt
courts?
pad
Yeah.
is. Where the asphalt. So you've got access from there. We've raised the concern, well, what if you're coming and you're visiting the stands, the visitor stands? How do you get across the field? We were asking about that, and I think probably accessibility is not significantly impaired by the field, but to the same degree, the visitor stands are accessible if they are if the requirement is to be able to get there from the parking lot. That's the route down, the snaking path down, which also gets you to that pad in the corner.
Yeah.
It
I
may
just
not
wondered
be a
from these-
direct route, and it's rare you actually see somebody take that snaking path all the way down. But that's just, the 6-degree requirement that the ADA has. So it is what it is.
Now, Burton, I think that there are a couple of handicap parking spots on the road, or at least there's a couple designated as handicaps that are on the road close to Thoreau. And then that's the path that they're supposed to take,
Well,
maybe.
Yeah, I mean that may be the case, but I think that I guess my point would be that I think that the bathroom meets the accessibility requirements. It may be a long walk, long walk or or the equivalent, but I think that it would, just given that path down that's there on the hillside.
Mm-hmm. Number 5 was, why not improve the portable toilets instead? And I think they're just saying that they want a permanent facility to meet the state code. It says here the district currently spends approximately $8,000 per year for portable toilets at CCH's Memorial Field. It sounds to me like during the big events, there would have to have a portable toilets in addition to this amenities building. Oh yeah, thank you, Anne. That's helpful. Oh yeah, number 7 was just what you guys were talking about, the winding ramp from the school down to the field. So anyway, that is more information. I don't know if anyone else has any comments on that. We were also received earlier in the week from Anne the town council's assessment of how the amenities building does fit into the CPA requirements. And that was, I think that's just about everything that I had managed to get in under half an hour. But does anybody else have anything else that they want to see that Anne can go ask for about this, other than, wait, what was the one thing that we said we wanted to see? Was it additional the additional funding sources through ADA, or what was it? Somebody mentioned something else that would be great to have, just so that Anne can go ask for that.
Schools?
Say it again.
Sorry, was it the split between the schools?
Oh yeah, thank you.
Split?
Yep.
The split between the schools. Okay.
I'm also terribly curious, and even though having served on the CPC for quite a long time now, I am terribly curious why the Carlisle protocols are so very different than Concord's. Is it, Burton, because it was the way we originally wrote our protocols that makes them so very different from Carlisle's? Or does it have to do with the way, in general, our warrant articles need to be presented to the town well in advance of the actual town meeting? I just find the flexibility of Carlisle remarkably appealing.
They don't even require you to have your budget really sorted when you apply, or even when the warrant article is closed, you could still fuss with your budget after
Fuss
that.
around and change things. So
Right.
figuring out the ratio, but I was just curious whether, Burton, do you know?
Why Carlisle's is so different? No, I don't.
Okay.
No.
I was just trying to discern the kind of history of ours
I mean,
that is so very different.
They may just have a smaller number of projects to deal with, less amount of time spent reviewing things. They may be able to do it in a more streamlined way.
They get about a sixth of amount of the money that we have, even though they're collecting higher percentage of taxes. And they also started their CPC started at the same time as ours. Concord and Carlisle were both initiated at the same time. So yeah, I don't know why. Even after talking to Barney for an hour, I still don't know why it's so different.
So what you're saying, the way we do it is a choice.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of
whether it was a choice or whether there was a we were just simply complying with the protocols of the town in terms of when warrant articles need to be presented, et cetera. Peggy looks like she might know.
Peggy, do you know?
I do. And you can ask Gary Clayton, he would know better. But the timelines for CPC are our own procedures. There's we can change it. You could change them anytime. You can work and do something different anytime. They're procedures. They're not regulations. And yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I was curious. So as we look forward and, in our planning, the degree to which adhering to the present protocols makes sense.
I wonder if it's the same for other warrant article applicants, if they also have to, close out in January and get ready to vet their warrant article with the various committees. I don't know. If it's
Well,
just
there are clear deadlines for warrant articles and,
Right.
and town review of those. So I had been just imagining that was the reason ours existed the way it did, but it was purely my imagination, not based on any
Well,
any
in
efficacy of
Carlisle,
any kind.
Barney Arnold is the chair, but she's also the rep from their select board too. So, and they just have a member at large. I know. So it's pretty crazy over there.
Those crazy Carlilians.
Carlilians, that's right. Burton?
Yeah, just a question that I would send back to them, and I don't mean to delve into the sort of the discussion on how much we want to support this application or not, or in what amounts, but there's something unique about this application. I would want to know what would happen if we funded less than all of it. And the reason I would ask that question specifically is because their request is significantly more than 50% of our overall funding, and it would be the largest project that CPC has ever funded in the 6.5, 7 years I've been on the committee. And the last time the matching funding that came from Carlisle was sort of a take it or leave it. It expired, unlike most CPC grants, which can sit out there for generally for 3 years. And my understanding is they're not going to the town for general request. So what would happen if we came back with their request amount for last year? And I don't want to delve too much more into sort of the numbers, what we would do we support this or not, but just getting that as a sort of sense, do they have a plan there? They've made some references to getting outside grants and things like that, but all of that's probably premature to be able to make any commitments there. So I just want to know what they would do, and really sort of specifically, what would that grant or request for Carlisle look like? Would they be going to the town for additional funds?
Yeah, that's a good question. And we could probably send that question over to maybe Bob, I guess, who answered our previous questions. My understanding from talking to Barney is that they will consider whatever amount is coming at them, that they are not restricted to $432,345. Anyway, Paul, did you have your hand up?
I did for a minute. It was just the comment on the timing. It is driven by the warrant articles. Your warrant articles due when everybody else is, and so everything leading up to that is in your timeline. But the warrant articles due in the draft. The final warrant articles is due 3 or 4 weeks after the draft. So there's some leeway in that, but it is town meeting that drives the final date.
Mm-hmm. Okay, their town meeting, the Carlisle town meeting is at the same time as our town meeting, so their process is different. That's that, like Peggy said, it's just a policy choice, or how to go about doing things. Okay, so if we find that answered a lot of those general questions, and we just have the question about the split and the question about what happens if we fund less, then I think that kind of wraps this up, unless anybody not on the committee, oh, hey, Bill, what do you got to say?
Bill,
you're on mute.
You're muted.
There it is. Okay. Bert has stimulated this from me. I may have it wrong. Let's say, for example, how do I put this? I wonder what would happen if we gave them a certain amount this year. Would they postpone it and look for other funds someplace else over a course of a year and come back to us in another year? Because there's a lot of things unclear. The sewer hookup is one. any fundraising coming from the Disability Commission, all that is unclear. And I wonder whether, something might be, and I guess the question I really had was, how often have we completely funded big programs or big grants like this? Don't we always look for funds from the outside as well? Or am I wrong about that?
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
No.
Yeah,
You're right. We do look for outside funding, Bill, on a regular basis. And in this case, their gestured outside funding is the CPC in Carlisle and the $350,000 discretionary fund put aside for possible sewage connection.
Okay.
But we do look for that, and that does play a role usually in our final deliberations.
Okay.
Also, it does say in this response from Bob that have requested a letter from DPW and that they will send it to us when they get it. So hopefully just the letter of support, even if they don't have all of the details on how the plumbing is going to work, the letter of support, like the initiative to sort this out with the schools is something. That's
Yeah.
Pat?
Yeah, hi. So two things. A, I'm really looking forward to a more structured answer on the sewer, and sounds like that's happening. I would be cautious about anytime. I used to represent construction workers. Anytime you put off a construction project for a year, that increases the overall budget of it, no matter what, between 3% and 5%. And that's a low estimate. So that would change the whole funding mechanism of how much it would cost. And I think it's good to explore things, but I'd be cautious about being like, well, we're supportive, but not fully. Go find the other one. And I don't think they haven't looked for things. I would love to talk with Simon and Carmine about possible legislative inputs, whether through the school building, not a full construction, but partial, to put something in. I think that'd be tough, but there's nothing that prevents them to putting something in the budget. But I'd be cautious about, like, we're supportive of it, but we're not going to do the full thing. We're going to let you go find 300,000, because then I think that is actually not helping a project of this size go forward.
Okay. Yes, Peggy.
The white fields behind the high school took up most, if not all, of CPC one year. So I think that's quite comparable.
Which fields are those?
The Doug White fields, the two.
Oh, the soccer fields up at the top?
Yeah.
I did not know what those were called. Okay.
Well, it's Doug White now, but those really took up pretty much all of the CPC funding one year.
Okay,
So
thank you for that precedent.
It's comparable. It's
Yeah.
not undone. It's not never been done.
Okay.
And were there at that time, Peggy, just to plunge your wonderful memory, were there as many other applications that would have been sacrificed in order to produce the Doug White fields? Or was this a singular request and one that was rather, I don't mean easily, but was sensibly met?
I think it was pretty well understood that was going to get most of the funding.
Okay.
At that time, I don't recall there being sort of funding buckets put forward, where like 500 for this or 600 for that just goes into a bucket to keep, it was more like the hundreds and 50s that you have for a specific item. But I think it was pretty well understood that was going to be the major recipient.
Well, I just know that if we do this in its fullness, it will mean that other projects will probably have to be curtailed in one way or another. So I was just wondering whether in the calculus of funding the Doug White fields as a disproportionate amount, those same kind of concerns existed, but it sounds like they didn't.
No, absolutely. For many, many years, there was a huge cut. I mean, the applications were way higher than the available funding. And I think this year it's a little different than what we used to have, where there are projects and there are funding buckets. right? So we didn't necessarily kill projects, and then there weren't funding buckets that, just didn't get funded.
Peggy, when I think about funding buckets, I think about the fact that the CPC is supposed to designate 10% to each of its 3 categories. Is that what you
Correct.
mean by funding buckets?
Presume that's what she.
No, what I mean by that are some of the applications, nothing tonight, but 500 for Affordable Housing Trust, or 600 into open space, or something like that, without a specific project.
Right, okay,
She means a designated reserve.
right.
It does, exactly, just a request for funding to pile it up, and which is great. It's very smart. But sometimes if there's a project that's worthy, it's different. It's different. It's a project or a funding bucket. And they do have to be spread around, absolutely, to the different categories.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay, I'm not sure.
Nancy has her hand up.
I just have
Oh,
one.
sorry,
I'm sorry, I'm late to the party. The one thing that I still question is the degree to which this is really a recreation facility that will be open to the public, really. The primary function will be to serve athletic facilities of the schools. So I don't know if we've ever seen a proposed schedule. I was looking for construction documents or even conceptual plans for the building. I didn't find those either. So it's hard to know how much storage space, for instance, in addition to the bathroom spaces and the concession space. It's difficult to tell that. And I'm going back to Stuart Saganar's caution about public access and whether or not this is really public access. So that's all.
It's a good point. Like, I always think about how will they clean it, all the time, for if it's used 80% of the time by the school and 20% of the time by the public, who gets to pay for all that cleaning?
Yeah.
I will mention that they did provide a floor plan. It's in the application, buried in the application. And I remember seeing it and thinking about how much space was for the closet and how much for the concession stand. But
and for equipment storage too, I guess, that
yeah.
I don't remember seeing. So,
but they don't have, I don't think they have any, it's just been organized by architects and engineers so far. There's been no contractor bids on it, so far as I can tell. Yeah. Andrew?
Just as far as the public use, the only thing I would just mention is a large sponsor of the actual fields down there were the youth organizations, the lacrosse, tennis, all those. They were the ones who helped pay for that, the initial development of that area. So it sort of shows that there is that public, like, they recognize the need. And if you've ever seen any of the major youth events that are there, I mean, I'm not even talking major like Mighty Moose, but like 2 weeks ago, the flag football had Friday Night Lights, so every kid in the entire youth flag football program went there on different shifts, and I mean, we were there 3.5 hours, but it was hundreds of kids. There was no parking anywhere on campus because there were that many, and they were relying on 3 dark porta potties. And it wasn't like this could be moved inside. It's just, it is what it is. And those kind of community events, which do actually benefit, there are kids on their teams in Carlisle as well. These are open sports to anybody. Fully town event, just random Friday night that didn't have a high school football game. And that's the only criteria they have for scheduling it, was they work around the high school schedule so that they can have the kids under the lights. And those kind of events are better if you could actually use the bathroom. So I'm just throwing it out there, and it wasn't an accessibility problem. It was just porta potties. Yeah. So.
Was the high school open for use if you needed to?
Oh no, I mean, I don't think.
Presumed that, but I just thought, yeah.
By the time some of those games ended, it was 9:30 at night. I really doubt the high school was still open. Yeah.
No, thank you for that insight. My daughters don't play flag football, so I wouldn't have known about that activity.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just a one-off example, but I mean, I know they have youth lacrosse down there, and I'm talking youth, not like like 4 and 5-year-olds down there Sunday morning. And I'm sure, all those, there are many organizations that use those fields when they're available. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's good. Hey, Ed, what have you got?
You're
Ed,
muted.
you're on mute.
Answering Nancy's question about the availability, I live nearby there and also go up to the BD gym, and I usually walk. So I see often kids out there practicing when it's a non-practicing time and so forth. It's really an open field. Now during school hours, I assume it's not open, for anybody from the community, but it's mostly kids that you see that use that field. So.
Yeah, I would argue that the amenities building is would be used by people who are walking their dogs in Fairyland. For example, it's pretty close to that. Or that if you're at Emerson Field, you could pop over if you're, feeling like you want to walk that
They
distance.
just have to be open regularly and
Correct.
scheduled and maintained and
And on
open.
the weekends and stuff. Yeah, right,
So
exactly.
that's my only point.
And last year, when Thoreau, we funded part of their, fields and playgrounds and so forth, the Thoreau School. They made a point that it is open and available for both, when off school hours and also for the sports teams and so forth. So
Mhm.
we've done this in the past.
The field is open.
Yeah.
But bathrooms are not necessarily open.
So the specific question, Eve, I think we might want to ask is, what are their plans for keeping this open, and who staffs it? How do they open it up? Who's in charge of cleaning? All those kind of basic questions. Is it the school committee? I mean, the school department that's going to be doing this, or is it going to be who's doing this? Who's going to keep this open?
Does anybody else remember this question being asked of Dr.
Yeah.
Hunter during the presentation?
It was?
I think she had said that the maintenance department understood that there would be a cost associated with it, but they were comfortable that in the ordinary maintenance they could handle the added burden of maintaining that.
But does that mean, Andrew, that there will be someone who
They said that they have staff.
closes
They
it
said they have
every
staff
day?
there 7 days a week. Yeah. So
That's a significant thing. I think we ought to find out what their plan is for taking care of it.
I mean, they're just going to expand the responsibilities of the already overtaxed custodians that are in the school.
I mean, you go by ride out bathrooms and they're open from 8 a.m. until whatever. I mean, every day they're opened up. Somebody opens them up, someone cleans them, someone closes them down every day. Well, is that going to happen at this place?
I guess the Giroux bathrooms are open all the time too, aren't they? Who's been to the Giroux?
I don't know. I haven't checked.
Yeah,
Are they?
they've been open. I mean, my understanding is the intention, Matt, jump in here from the recreation, but that they're going to be open seasonally. So maybe they're buttoned up now or will be at some point, not to be winterized, but the few times I've tried them, they've been open, clean, well maintained. So yeah.
So Jeff, they're not winterized at Giroux, because I thought I had understood, I believe that they were. Now that's old understanding from long ago, before the facility was actually built, and that was one of the questions we asked. But if it's not, that's interesting. I can see that the water fountains may not be working, but
yeah, I can't say authoritatively, Diane.
okay.
I thought, or maybe I'm just assuming that it's buttoned up in the winter.
Okay.
Just FYI, the Concord Recreation Committee has not taken on Giroux Park as of yet. The town still has control of that.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Okay, great. So I think this conversation was exactly what I was hoping to have, because I didn't think that we had enough time to do a longer conversation about this application and then give the appropriate attention to all the other applicants as well. So I appreciate that, everybody coming early and discussing this. I just have to say that I made a mistake. I thought that we had to vote on the December meeting, but Anne corrected me that we can have the December meeting to deliberate, and then we can have our early January meeting even to deliberate. Isn't that right, Anne? And then we can vote either at the end of that or have another meeting in January to vote if we need more time. Right,
That's
Anne?
right. So there is a meeting scheduled, I think, like the Tuesday before the Friday that the draft warrants are due, the January 6th. And then it turns out that you don't actually need to have the numbers finalized for the draft warrant. It would be great if you did, but you could submit the final numbers when the warrant is actually due, which is later in January.
Right. So that's good.
But we don't even know how much money we have at this point yet. So
Right.
it's
Exactly. Yeah.
So, yeah.
So when is our next meeting, Anne? I should have this right in front of me.
Yeah, let me see. I'll have to check.
I have it here too somewhere.
November 4th.
November 4th. And then I asked Anne to put on another meeting because I was insane. I'm still trying to get as many meetings on here as possible. But I'm not sure that we need another one. Oh yeah, November 4th.
And then the 25th.
We may not need the 25th if we can actually deliberate on the 4th on the December meeting, which, why is this not showing up here? Sorry, I usually have our meeting scheduled. Oh, here we go, right in front of me. Yeah, November 4th, December 2nd, and January 6th. Those 3 meetings I think will give us plenty of time to do the work we have to do. So if it's all right with everyone, I would like to cancel the November 25th meeting. Just nod your head if you agree with me. Yeah, okay, great, thank you. Okay, well, we've managed to draw this out until almost the time of the starting of our meeting. I don't know if is Alyssa here or if we're even allowed to roll on. We did announce that this was starting at 6. Oh, Peggy?
Yes, just speaking not for the finance committee, but giving a sense, I think our I think we would have a concern if the CPC felt like they were going to try and borrow ahead for this item.
Yeah.
And that had come up briefly, I think, in a small piece of correspondence quite a while ago. But that, I think, is probably the number one thing we'll be keeping our eye on. It's your vote, it's your meeting, it's your committee. You have a budget and you have applications. I really don't want to deal with this again next year, but I just wanted to put that out there. I do think the FinCom would have a little bit of concern if you went toward bonding.
Okay, thank you, Peggy. I think that was, for everyone else's knowledge, that came up in an email from Keith Bergman to his own committee, that we might do that. It's not something that was meant for us to have to deal with. If people are curious about that, we can say what that is later, but I really wanted to hear the last 6 applicants and give them their due time and consideration before we even start talking about the bigger funding picture.
Eve, quick question. When will we know the amount of money we have available for next year? Do you know?
It's the first week of November sometime.
Okay.
Right. And do you have a specific date? Will we know before our November 4th meeting?
No, we definitely won't know before November 4th.
Great.
It's usually mid-November to early December.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we have a guess at how much we are going to have to work with, but at the end of the day, we might have to scramble. So yeah. Anyway, yeah, Diane?
2 things. One is it was Keith who recommended a bonding. He actually recommended that last year too, when we were looking at the amenities building and perhaps trying to squeeze that in last winter or last spring. The second thing is that Eve, I don't love meetings any more than you do, but I really am chary of giving up the 25th. We won't have funding information really by the 4th. And to make the kinds of decisions we're going to need to make this time, given the tightness of the applications and the schedule, it seems to me ambitious at best to try to do that in 1.5 meetings, which is kind of what we'd have. So I would really recommend we hold on to the 25th. Then if we don't need the January one, we can drop that. But
Okay.
I think diving in and getting going sooner than that is prudent, but that's just my sensibilities. And a lot of people said yes, no meeting. So I'm just.
No, I mean, that's why I put the meeting on the calendar in the first place, because I was afraid we were
Yep.
going to need it. So, okay, we'll put a pin on the November meeting. We won't take that off just yet, but we'll see how it goes at our next meeting. We're getting close to 7 o'clock, and I want to give Alyssa a chance to present. But first, I just have a little personal announcement, which is that I have filed a form with the town clerk to give to the select board that my company, I have an architecture firm, is doing work, as I mentioned in our August meeting, for the facilities department. We have multiple projects. The most recent one is envisioning the MCI building comeback. And I did not think that this was in any way a conflict with my volunteering for the CPC, since the DPW doesn't have any applications. I wouldn't even know what to recuse myself from, because they don't have any applications with us. But apparently it is worrisome for some folks in the town that I have both roles here. So I just want to say for sure that I'm not quitting my job. So if anybody has a problem or wants to bring it up again, please to email Anne and let her know that they feel like that this, even though I filed this form and followed the town council's advice, that it's still a conflict and they don't like that. And I will step down and turn this whole thing over to Diane, my vice chair. Woo-hoo!
Stay right where you are.
No, yeah. So anyway, we've done a lot of work and I would like to follow through, but if it's really bothering anyone in the town manager office specifically, or the select board, they can just email Anne about that. And please, no more emails to my place of employment or the people I work for. Okay, that's all I had to say. Let's move ahead with our agenda, everyone, and go to Alyssa. Would you like to tell us what is happening with that housing production plan?
Hi, Eve. I'm happy to. Just for people who may not know, my name is Elisa Sandoval. I am the Community Development Director for the town, and I submitted 2 CPC applications. The first one is the housing production plan that I submitted for $56,000. That application, I am actually formally withdrawing that application because the Concord Municipal Affordable Housing Trust has accepted and approved a grant for this project, which will fully cover it. So we, as such, we no longer need those funds from CPC. And so I'm just formally withdrawing that. But, thank you so much for your time and any, consideration you have had for the project so far. So
Well,
just kind of making that announcement.
Thank you, Elisa, and I won't mispronounce your name again. I want to tell you that the housing production plan is on the list of priorities for the select board, and I really appreciate all the work that you're doing to bring that revision about, because it's timely and due for sure. We all support housing. Unless anyone else wants to make a comment, I'll let you roll straight into the RHSO application.
Sure. So the RHSO application, that is for $39,000 that we're requesting for CPC funding. And this is a pretty standard request that we have. This helps to support the Regional Housing Services program that is that helps to support the town of Concord with meeting its affordable housing goals. Something specifically that RHSO does for us is it helps to monitor all the existing affordable housing, and that helps to keep us on track with our subsidized housing inventory, making sure that landlords, owners, tenants are kind of knowledgeable and in compliance with the various affordable housing housing regulations that have to do with their properties. Another thing that the RHSO helps us with is home administration, and that is Concord is a member of the West Metro Home Consortium, which is an organization of different communities. And this is something that we have been a longstanding member of, and it really helps to provide us with that support that we need from the home consortium, and it provides some additional funding, particularly for very low income rental subsidies, should we decide to apply for those. The other thing the RHSO does is to help to provide that additional local support for our housing groups, our housing boards and committees, such as the Municipal Affordable Housing Trust, such as the Concord Housing Development Corporation. They have recently, RHSO has been really helpful in moving forward the Assapet River Homes Project, which we're very pleased that is proceeding and has broken ground already this year. So they have been really instrumental in helping the town move that project forward. Another thing they help to do is help to make sure that resale of existing affordable homes is in compliance with making sure that the terms of those agreements are, carried forward should an affordable housing unit be sold. They also just help to support our regional housing services and how that we collaborate with other neighboring towns, and really helping to support affordable housing as a whole in the region moving forward. So we're really pleased to be part of this program. We're really pleased to help support it, and it's really been a valuable resource, just helping the town and the community development department assist in moving affordable housing policies and programs forward. And I'm just going to see if Liz Rust is here. I did let her know about this meeting, but she may not have been able to join.
Liz is here. She is here, and
Oh,
she's
okay.
fine. Yep.
Oh, okay, great. So if Liz, I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that, but I'm happy to have you add too.
I think many people are familiar with the RHSO. We've been providing services in Concord for quite some time in all different projects and all the things that Elisa mentioned. Concord is the lead community and hosts the RHSO for all 10 communities. So everyone's very thankful that that administrative expense and process doesn't come out of this particular fee. This fee is only for Concord specific services. The different communities pay into an administrative fee evenly that Concord uses for rent and telephone and like all those kinds of things. But I think Elisa summarized the services, and we're happy to be continuing services here. So I'm co-directing this year. We've hired a new director, Kristen Gouchard, who was the planning director from Acton, and we are both in partnership, and that's all going very well. In FY27, I'll be still around, but you'll see less and less of me. I know that breaks your heart, right? Anyway, so, but things are going well on the transition, so that's good. The total amount for the RHSO is included in the narrative, and it's up a little bit from last year because of the HPP work, which is bundled into here. We're going to be partnering with the consultant who will be hired to do the public engagement piece. And as we've done for many years, or for the last 3 housing production plans, we'll be doing the needs assessment and coordinating the community process.
Okay, thank you guys. I have a quick question. The total amount is a tiny bit up, as you mentioned, Liz, but the proportion of it requested from CPC is down from last year. And I looked through the application. I didn't see exactly why, or even, I don't even know if it's very important, but I just noticed that.
So the CPC portion is 38, the 49, which is the balance of that, the town is going to pay 39, and then the $10,000 difference is for the HPP, and that will come out of the trust.
Sorry, Liz, I think that you may be looking at a prior version of this. So the request right now for CPC funding is 39,000, and the other sources is 38,000.
Perfect.
So the total project budget is 77,000. So Eve, are you saying that it's a little bit down from last year?
Yeah,
Is that
last
right?
year, by the way, on page 2, it says 87,000, not 77, which is just a
Okay.
typo. But last year, I think the request was 43,500, and that was because of the co-partnering situation happening. There was a jump from the year before of 33,000 to 43, and that was the explanation for that. So now we're down some from. Not that I'm complaining. I'm not complaining. Burton, am I misremembering this, or? I wrote down the numbers from earlier today.
I don't have the numbers in front of me, Eve, I'm sorry.
Did you have something?
So I think the idea was that
I-
last year was going to be higher for all communities because of that 1 year of transition. So it was expected that really all communities would
Right.
come down some for FY27.
Got it. And Eve, if you were, the reason I had my hand raised was just to ask another question.
Oh, okay. Well, then just continuing on this thread about funding, and I have to say, I'm going to preface this with, we all love the Regional Housing Services Office. And I'm not pointing fingers. I'm just asking a very, very sweet, innocent question. But I just looked up the numbers, and it looks like in 2019, CPC contributed 19,000, and the next year 20, and then 25, and then 28, and then 33. So in 5 years, we've basically doubled our contribution to the, and I was just wondering in 5 more years if it will be doubled again. And I still think it's great and we should do this. I just wanted to know if we're on a trajectory here.
So the things that contribute, do you want me to answer?
Yes, please.
Please.
Or Elisa,
Yeah.
whoever.
Please, Liz, yes.
Yeah, so I think there are a couple of things that contribute. One is the hourly rates and just the, that those go up. The other thing is because monitoring is a big part of what we do, that as you add development, so like adding the Prescott, added a lot to the monitoring. So as you increase your housing, you're going to increase the activity here. The activities of the CHDC and certainly the Affordable Housing Trust also increase the activities. And then there was the small grant program that got started in this time frame that we administer to. So the workload increases the number of units that we monitor as well as the hourly rates.
That's an excellent explanation. And I imagine having to go to housing roundtable meetings and housing trust meetings have also added some time. So thank you for that. Okay, Diane?
Burton was actually first.
Oh, Burton?
Yeah, thank you. Liz, my question is, this is a little unusual in terms of the funds that CPC provides, in that it's sort of a recurring operating fund cost, as opposed to a capital investment we might make in a particular project, building something or acquiring some land. Can you give me a sense of how other towns fund the RESO? Is it out of CPC funds across all the towns, or are some funding it out of their regular operating budgets?
So by far most funded out of their CPC. Lexington funds it completely out of their operating. Natick is new to the CPC, so they're just building up a reserve. So they're funding out of their Affordable Housing Trust and their operating. Acton, Bedford, Maynard, Sudbury, Lincoln, Weston, Wayland, all are 100% CPC.
Okay, all right.
I think the idea is that that we support the plan of the CPC. When you look at your plan, those activities that you outline in your plan are the activities that we work on. And by funding it with non-CPA funds, to the extent that we ever work on, like moderate income units that might be above the AMI that the CPC would concern themselves with, you have contributions that offset that. So we have non-CPA dollars at work in our office, if you will.
Okay, thanks for the explanation. Appreciate it.
Okay, great. And now Diane.
Oh, thank you very much. Actually, Burton, that was one of my questions. And my second question, so thank you, Burton. My second question is on page 2. Eve, you said, oh, that must be a typo, 87,000, but I was confused because that says 87,000 on page 2 and it says 77,000. And so I quickly did the math and realized, no, it really, given the figures you've given us, Alyssa, it should be 77,000. Are we correct that that is a typo?
The difference really is the $10,000 for the housing production plan.
Oh, sorry, Liz, I think that's a previous version. So The housing production plan is funded completely now by the Affordable Housing Trust.
So you will change that number in the application?
Yeah, so now it is
Correspond with the-
$77,000 for the RHSO only. And that is a mistake, that it should be 77,000.
Thank you so much. Well, an emendation to that effect would be helpful, just for the record. So
Yes,
thank you very
sure, definitely.
Because I was confused.
Oh, sorry, Diane.
Sorry about that.
Ed.
I just want to, congratulate Liz for just a wonderful tenure at the RHSO. I've seen it grow, other new towns coming in, and it always seems like that we, from the Housing Roundtable or the trust, we're always asking for additional things, and we wonder if maybe there should be an increase in the funding. And she says, no, everything is fine. And I think it's, appreciate the small grants program that has helped some of the people that we work with too. So I think she's done just a wonderful job, and I'm glad that she's going to still be around. But I think that there is a leadership change going on. So thank you very much, Liz.
Thank you very much,
Liz.
Ed.
Nancy, do you have a comment or a question? Nancy, you're on mute.
I just want to ask Alicia about the Municipal Affordable Housing Trust application that was withdrawn. That's what you said?
Yes, that was withdrawn because the Municipal Affordable Housing Trust, encouraged the town to apply for a grant to fund the housing production plan. We submitted a grant application, which was very similar to some of the materials that we provided to the CPC. And we submitted that grant application and they approved it unanimously. And so
what was the amount of that grant? Because this was for $785,000, right?
Oh, no, Nancy, that we're talking
about. Am I on the totally wrong thing?
Look at the application numbered 1, TM 26-01.
I'm sorry. Oh, that's the one. Okay.
That's the one. Yeah.
So they're still in there for the $785,000. Yeah. Thank you. That's all I want.
Separate application. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
So if no one else on the committee or off the committee has any question for Elisa, I just want to thank you very much for coming by and explaining all of this and thank you for your application. As I mentioned, we love all of this housing work and Ed put it so well, I'm not going to copy what he said. Thank you for coming by.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next up, we've got, who have we got? Philip Griffiths, are you? Oh, there you are. Phil, do you want to talk to us about the Rideout Park Courts renovation project?
I would be happy to. Thank you very much for having us here this evening. I also want to recognize 2 other people from our Rideout Court project team that are here on the call with us. Lee Jackson, who's the director of the Recreation Department, and Eric Shaw from Public Works. And the three of us, plus a number of other people on the recreation team, have been working on this project for some time. Summary of the project: next summer and fall 2026, the Recreation Department will be replacing the tennis and basketball courts in Rideout Park. Just as a reference point, we intend to do the courts at Emerson Park the following year, but we're doing the Rideout courts this year. They're in greater need of work than the ones at Emerson. The conditions have deteriorated quite a bit in recent years, and they require complete replacement rather than just maintenance resurfacing, which is what has been done in the past, sort of filling cracks and painting and that sort of thing. But they require complete replacement at this point. If any of you have been to Rideout Park at all in the past couple of years, you will have noticed the popularity of pickleball that is being played at those courts in Rideout. The replacement of the courts gives us, when we replace the courts, it gives us an opportunity to think about whether we should reprogram some or any of those courts to be pickleball courts rather than tennis courts. That's not the purpose of this application. We have started a community process to look at that question. We had a public meeting last week, got lots of input from folks, and we're still getting input. So the Recreation Commission is considering that question as to what to do with the courts. Regardless of what we decide to do with the courts, they need to be replaced and resurfaced for whatever purpose we choose to do them. And that's the purpose of our application to the CPC, is for some funding to assist us with that project. Specifically, the issue that is before us, we have, these are all based on estimated costs put out from our consultants. I'm sure you've heard that before in lots of applications that come before you. We're shooting a little bit in the dark, but we have a consultant from an organization called Activitas who are terrific and have been very helpful with us. So anything I tell you is sort of based on their current estimates and what we understand. The main issue is that there are two directions you can go when you resurface courts, tennis courts, outdoor basketball courts, etc. You can use regular asphalt, which is what has been used in the past on our courts and is there now. It has a life expectancy of, depending on who you ask, at the most 15 years. Some people tell you 8 to 10 years. Recent experience has told us that within a year or two, they start to crack and the performance falls down quite rapidly. But anywhere from 10 to 15 year life expectancy on those courts is good. The alternative, and what most communities are investing in now, the state of the art, is something called post-tension concrete, which has a warranted life of 25 years in most cases, and usually lasts 25 to 30 years. And also has significantly lower annual maintenance costs than routine asphalt does. So what we're looking for is your assistance, essentially, to fund the delta between town funds and a one-time allocation from the Recreation Revolving Fund. We've more or less got the funding to do asphalt and intend to go forward and do the asphalt if for some reason we're not able to get the funding for the post-tension concrete. What we're looking to the committee for is essentially to fund the delta so that we can do the post-tension concrete. It's not a cheap hobby, replacing courts. The total estimated cost of replacing the basketball and tennis courts at Rideout with post-tension concrete on the tennis courts only comes out to, I'm going to make sure I've got so many numbers running all over here, is about $1.3 million, believe it or not. It's an expensive hobby. A couple of data points that I want to just make sure as we go into discussion that you have in the back of your head. These courts were most recently replaced back in 2007. Within a year or two of them having been done in 2007, they were reported cracking, puddling, all the issues that you have with them. And they really should have been replaced several years ago. Town meeting allocated some funds back in 2019 for a maintenance project on these, and it hasn't been done since then, but they really should have been done a number of years ago. So they haven't been touched since 2007, and they're well past their useful life. Post-tension concrete is routinely warranted for 25 years. That means the manufacturers who put it in guarantee that this stuff will last you 25 years without requiring significant replacement. Asphalt is generally only warranted for 1 year. Now, you can get 8, 10, 12 years out of it, but they will not warranty it because it frequently cracks within a year or two. And then the other data point to keep in mind is that the annual maintenance cost for an asphalt is about 50% higher than it is for the post-tension concrete. It's rough estimates, about $15,000 a year for an asphalt court and a little bit less than 10 for a post-tension concrete. So what we have done when we look at these projects, as I said, we've identified a few sources of funding. There is funding from ARPA, which I believe everyone is familiar with sort of the history of that, of about $130,000. There's $108,000 from town meeting back in 2019. We have identified a one-time allocation from the Recreation Revolving Fund of about $397,000. So we had originally requested an amount of $497,000 from the CPC, which effectively funds the post-tension concrete. It's a little bit more than the actual post-tension concrete. We kind of backed into that a little bit, but that's the funding we have available. One other data point, just as an FYI, which we were surprised to learn recently. This application and the sort of the original thinking about where we came up with the funding was based on estimates from our consultants about 6 months ago. In the intervening 6 months, they have updated their estimates. They did it just last week for our public meeting that we had, and the estimated costs have gone up by about $158,000 in 6 months, and that's primarily due to tariffs on steel, because the post-tension concrete is supported by steel. So we've seen significant cost increases in the last 6 months, but that's just sort of a reference point out there. So what we have done is sort of just, I think the most salient point for your consideration is we looked at what the consultants said it would cost for us to do asphalt, an anticipated life of 10 to 12 years for that asphalt and the annual maintenance costs. And then we looked at the post-tension concrete with a 30-year lifetime and looked at what it would cost the town and how much it would save in the long term. So the highlight of this pitch is if we come up front with the roughly $500,000 for funding so that we can do the post-tension concrete, over the 30 years, we anticipate it will save the town about $1 million, because if you look at what will happen otherwise, we will have to replace, if we did it with asphalt, we would have to replace that at least once, probably twice over the lifetime of that 30 years. And we would have increased maintenance costs each year. The modeling shows us, at least the way we've done it with our consultant, if you got the best possible turnout from, or the best possible result from putting in regular asphalt, and it lasted a full 15 years and you only had to replace it once during the lifetime of that post-tension concrete, you'd still save the town about $400,000 with this investment. If it does what's more likely going to require replacing twice during that lifetime, during that 30-year lifetime, if you had the regular asphalt, lasted 10 to 12 years, you'd have to replace it twice during the lifetime of the post-tension concrete. You'd end up, an upfront investment in post-tension concrete would save the town about $1 million. So what we're saying is we're going to go ahead and do the replacement of these courts. It needs to be done. People playing tennis and pickleball there need the courts to be replaced. It's been ignored for too long. It has to be done. We've identified funding from a one-time allocation from the Recreation Revolving Fund, plus some town funds and ARPA funds that essentially can cover the cost of doing it with asphalt. We're looking to you to help us to put in the 25 to 30 year lifespan post-tension concrete and save the town about $1 million over the course of the 30 years of lifetime. In a nutshell, that's what we're looking for. I do have a question in that we're somewhat surprised by the increase of $158,000, and I don't know what the committee feels about changing the amounts of requests in the middle of the process, how that works. I'm new to this, so I don't know how that goes. You tell me. As I said, we're committed to getting it done with the asphalt if that's the route that we have to go. But we think for the town, it's a much wiser investment to put more money up front now and save, $1 million over the next 30 years.
Phil, I just have to quickly tell you that our rules don't allow you to increase the amount of money of your application, which really pains me because I totally understand the tariff thing is making my life miserable as well. Yeah. But anyway, I wanted you to be able to finish your presentation.
Okay, I'm essentially done. Everybody ready for any questions you might have? We're looking for that amount of just shy of 500,000. We put in 497,153 to help us do the courts with post-tension concrete as opposed to asphalt, improve the playability for the long term, and save the town a significant chunk of money over that long term as well. That's it in a nutshell. So it's fairly straightforward from that perspective.
Thank you so much for your presentation. That was really clear and understandable. We have Matt and Ed on this project, but if they don't mind, maybe we'll just start with Andrew, who put his hand up real fast. Andrew, do you have a question for
Yeah,
Phil?
no, it may have been better answered in the application, but didn't see it. It all blended together at some point. But you'd mentioned in your presentation many times about the pickleball courts or the tennis courts that will be convertible to pickleball. And then you said you're focusing on that, and you brought it up both here and at Emerson for next year. Are you also doing the basketball courts at Rideout, or is that?
Yes, we are researching
So it's fully Rideout, and then
yes, all of the
okay.
both the tennis and the basketball courts will be done next summer. We're only looking for post-tension concrete for the tennis and pickleball courts because they get a lot more use than the basketball courts do. And believe it or not, it's actually use does have an impact on how long these things last. And also just from a funding perspective, those courts get a lot more use, so there's more return on our investment. But we will be doing the basketball courts as well next summer.
Great, thank you.
Okay, if you guys don't mind, I'm going to jump to Matt because he was assigned this application. Matt, go ahead with your questions for Phil.
Great, thanks. Well, first and foremost, Phil, great job. And as it's known, I'm on the committee with Phil. He's a great leader. I do like the term warranty. That's a really cool term. I want to, and the extended life of that sounds like the warranty is for the existence of the, so would that be 15 years? And does the warranty include cracks? I know living in New England, there's like frost heaves and one little crack can lead to another one. Would they come, is there an annual maintenance, and or if there's one crack, will they come and repair it, or does it need to be an extensive crack? What's the maintenance policy after it's installed?
I don't know the answer exactly to that question. I don't know if Eric has any insight into that. Eric Shaw, do you have any insight into that question? See here.
Good evening, everybody. So to answer that question, yes, there are some differences. Certainly with the post-tension concrete surface, your maintenance levels are going to be things like repainting lines that wear away just from foot traffic. Sort of small costs that are going to, crop up every, say, 3 to 5 years, maybe even longer intervals. But as far as like the surface goes, that concrete surface is going to be very, very durable. I wouldn't expect any cracks at all, outside of, maybe some misuse or, some kind of, sort of act of God, let's say, or something to fall on it or, things of that nature. The asphalt's going to be very different. Within, as Phil mentioned, sometimes within a year, it could be within, 5 years. There's going to be some cracks developing in that asphalt. It's just the nature of the material. On top of that, you're also going to be repainting and things like that. So the maintenance, with the asphalt is going to be not just dealing with the cracks, but it's going to be more frequent repainting of lines and things like that if we want to try to keep that surface consistent with what we would expect from the concrete surface.
Thank you. And I've got one more question. So I know that pickleball is very popular, which is wonderful. And sometimes people of older elk, more mature people play that. Is there a difference in the wear and tear of the body, aka the knees and the ankles? Is the post-tension concrete maybe more friendly to said body than concrete? I don't know, but I'm really interested in new material.
Lee, I know we had asked that question of the consultants, and I believe their responses there was not really any established difference between the performance and the impact of those two from a health and injury status. There's no I don't know that there have been any studies particularly on it, but there's no anecdotal evidence or anything particularly that says there's any major difference. That's my understanding.
I would concur that I have not heard anything official on that. But I will tell you that I have heard officially that a lot of other towns are going with the post-tension concrete because of that warranty for 25 or 30 years or whatever, So, but I don't know if it's due to play. Of course, clay is the way to go with tennis, right? That's the one that really provides a nice comfortable play experience for older adults. So that might be what we're thinking of, but I could Google it obviously while we get more questions asked, but I have not heard anything official on that, a positive difference there for that reason.
Thank you.
Okay, Ed, do you have any questions for these folks?
Yeah, just a couple of questions. I looked at the application, and it talks also about Emerson being the same situation. Is this going to be once we get this project done at Right Out, are you going to come back and and need funding for the Emerson, and I always call it Emerson Field, and I noticed that it's been mostly called, or there has been a change and it's Emerson Park now, and maybe you could answer that question too.
Yeah, I would anticipate that we might be doing that. We're going to be looking at Emerson is not in as bad a shape, which is why we've gone to Right Out first.
Yeah.
But it's likely to need complete replacement, just like Right Out is, and there are some small pockets of funding allocated to that from past years, et cetera. I believe there's a little bit more funding for the basketball courts at Emerson than we have for anything at Right Out right now. But yes, I would anticipate at this point, if you'd ask me, it's likely that we would come back in and do something similar again for the Emerson courts. I will add that this is when I say it's a one-time allocation that we've identified from the Recreation Revolving Fund, it's not, we usually, the Recreation Revolving Fund usually is only expended on sort of routine small maintenance issues. Over the past X number of years, essentially from the time of the pandemic, when there were a bunch of funding things that have gone, that got put into that fund, and as we built up a little bit of a surplus. So we have an opportunity to do some one-time allocations, and looking at these two courts is two of the things in the next 2 years that we've identified as critical recreation infrastructure resources that we think we can put a little bit of funding into. But it's not enough to really do any significant capital investments in recreation fund. That the recreation funds, are user fees that come in for people taking classes and kids going to camp, et cetera. You really can't fund major capital investments on the back of that type of funding. But we do have a one-time excess that built up over the past couple of years as a result of funding during the pandemic that we're allocating towards these two projects and probably maybe one other over the course of the next 2 or 3 years.
It did seem like a very expensive process. I mean,
yeah.
They did the track over at Emerson, I think maybe 4 or 5 years ago, but certainly before COVID. And I think it was only cost about $40,000 to resurface that. So, and Lee's comment about clay, I just don't see clay as being something that's used for recreational tennis. Maybe, do the pros play on clay anymore? Or
I can answer that really quickly. There are clay courts. They're obviously specialty courts in communities that can afford the money and can afford the upkeep. Not necessarily just for pros, but it is a highly specialized surface, and you'll see it at clubs mostly. I know there's one town that has a clay court, but that's not us. And we're certainly not looking for clay. We simply want to resurface our course and make it nice and playable for Concord residents.
And you're right. I was quite surprised at at the numbers that came up in this, but this process of replacement rather than just resurfacing, striping, fixing the cracks in the asphalt and redoing it. They're getting rid of all the solid material, doing, site preparation, digging down, flattening it, putting in post-tension concrete with steel bars. So it's a significant construction project. We anticipate it's going to take 2 to 3 months actually to get this done, including curing times, et cetera. It's a significant undertaking rather than just an annual painting and filling the cracks exercise. That's why it costs so much.
Yeah, just a final question. Pickleball versus tennis. I know that some kind of, you read at least in the press or the media that there are tennis players that are so anxious to keep their tennis courts, and neighbors who complain about pickleball being noisy or maybe too exciting or something. So have you talked to the abutters about that issue or not?
Yes, we had a public meeting last week in which we notified all the abutters. We notified all the tennis and pickleball players that we could identify, and we got a lot of interesting comments. We're evaluating 3 different scenarios at the moment. One of them is essentially recreating what you've got there now, which is 3 tennis courts and 6 temporary pickleball courts placed on top of them. There's the other alternative is you can replace all the tennis courts and put in 8 pickleball courts, or there's a hybrid where you could say we can put in 6 pickleball courts and keep 1 tennis court. So we're looking at all 3 of those options, and what we're gathering comment from users and abutters to the park on that right now. We hope to come to a conclusion on that in the next month or 2 to decide which direction we're going to go on that. And once we do that, that informs the RFP that goes out, because when you're actually building the courts, you're putting in holes for posts for nets and how you configure everything. That's all part of the construction exercise. So that would be, we'd make that decision I hope certainly by the end of the calendar year, and then put that into an RFP in the spring. What we intend to do for those who are into sort of the contracting perspective, based on the timing of when we need to do all this, essentially what I think administratively will end up happening is that we'll put out, so that we can get the contract started and get out the contract, we'll put out the post-tension concrete as an adult, what they call an adult alternative to the contract, so that because we know the funding may have to go through the process in town meeting and all that sort of stuff. So that's how we'll do it. We will proceed with just the asphalt if the funding from CPC doesn't come through for us to do the project in what we think is a advantageous way in the long term.
I mean, my opinion is that the pickleball players were probably not as specific about the surface. This is kind of it's a new sport and people they play where they can. So,
yeah.
Okay, thanks, Ed, for those questions. And I just have to weigh in that we're a basketball family over here, and I'm sorry that you don't need better basketball courts over there, because we love those courts.
They will get redone. There's no
good,
question.
Good. I want to hear that.
Be redone.
That's good. Diane, do you have a question for these guys? You're on mute, Diane.
Yeah, and we are the same in our household. Although I certainly grew up playing on clay courts, so tennis, so those are gorgeous. But I certainly understand why you're not doing that. So my question is, Phil, for when we're doing presentations to the town, given what you heard from neighbors, is there a contingent or anything that we need to know in advance of a group of people who might stand up in town meeting and saying, no, this should have been something else than what you're suggesting? Or was it just a general discussion that suggested, oh, we might like more of this and we might prefer more of that? So were there kind of contentious feelings? Or
no, it's actually
an exchange of ideas.
So we had a public meeting last week on a Tuesday evening, 6:30 at the Harvey Wheeler Center here in West Concord. So we got lots of local folks out there. And I was actually particularly impressed how the conversation ended up being between pickleball players and tennis players, rather than them sort of telling us, you must do this, you must do that. And they were talking about how they interacted with each other and what worked and what didn't, which was I thought was very interesting. I do think we did not hear at that public meeting a lot from any of the immediate abutters. They were all notified of the They were all notified of the meeting. I personally, my dog and I walked around Rideout Park and put flyers in every mailbox within 200 yards of Rideout Park. At that particular meeting, there was not a lot of abutter issues. I would not be surprised if there are a handful of people out there that might raise their hands at some point and want to say something. The reality of what's going on there now, it's essentially a pickleball center for all intents and purposes. There are my rough estimate, I'm there twice a day, every day of the week, walking my dog. I live right down the street. I would say there are 10 to 1 the number of people playing pickleball versus playing tennis. They're using those courts as temporary courts. They come in every day, set up the temporary courts, break them down at the end of the day, which is not a small effort. And they're not as good. The experience is not as good for using those temporary ones. That's what we heard from the most, was the pickleball players who said, hey, we're a legitimate group of users here who have to do all this stuff on our own. We would really like to have an improved, experience here. And there's lots of us, and that's who we heard from the most. There were a handful of tennis players as well who said, but I was impressed that the conflict between the two user groups is not as much as I had expected it might be. They seem to be somewhat amicable with each other at this point.
Thank you, Phil. That's so helpful. I was more concerned actually about abutters and noise, because in other projects that we've been involved in, that has emerged as a question. Newbury Courts expansion, for instance, the question about the Concord Country Club putting pickleball courts adjacent to the end of that project and what kind of discord it develops. So I just was wondering, and I'm glad to hear there has not been. So thank you very much.
We have asked our consultants to let us know what, if any, noise mitigation options are available to us. There are not
okay.
many, but they're going to look
Okay.
into that. As I
Okay.
said, the reality is there are 6 pickleball courts going there most of the time, all the time already anyways, regardless of what we do. So I don't think this is going to change it that much. But I'm sure there will be a handful of people who put their hands up to make that comment.
Thank you. And Matt, thank you for concern about ancient people and their joints. Much appreciated.
Okay, Bill, what have you got? You're on mute, Bill.
There it is. Most of my questions have been answered, but I just have one, and this might be short, Phil. A great presentation. When you checked with other towns or others who have put this in, what downside did they give you about moving in this direction? What did they discover that they didn't expect when they put these in? Was there any downside?
I'm gonna see if Lee has an answer to that. She's probably spoken with her colleagues in other towns more than I have. I don't know if she has anything to add to that.
Luckily, nothing discoverable recently that would turn us away from the post-tension concrete. As I said, most people are going with that now. Not only do we have cost savings in the maintenance, but we have cost savings in time. And as you can imagine, we're all spending a lot of time on procurement projects. We're all spending a lot of time organizing on the staff side anyway. It's just a savings all the way around, and the recycling has come up as there's really good opportunities there too. I know that's important to Concord. So no downside.
Good to hear. I know I put in some artificial turf fields without, and then later on discovered their problems. But anyway, so that's good to hear. That's very good.
I guess the only problem would be that the cost of the steel right now that Phil just brought you up to. That, of course, was a recent discovery, and that I guess you could consider a downside. But that's the only thing, sir, that I could report that I've learned.
Okay, thank you.
I just have one very quick question. It says here in the Activitas list that there's an add alternate for future lighting. And I just want to double check that you're not actually considering the future lighting, or is that on there because you actually are considering the future lighting?
I will tell you my 2 cents on that. They have suggested that when municipalities do that, if you are ever going to consider doing lighting, it's a lot better to put in some PVC pipe when you do the first construction than to try and break it up and do it later on. We are at the moment are not actually considering, we are not considering putting any lights in there. What they're simply talking about is if you ever decided to, over the 30 years of this, put the PVC piping in now so you can run the wires under there now and not have to dig it up if you want to do it later.
That's exactly what I wanted to hear. Okay, thank you.
That may be value engineered out of the whole thing. We might decide that's where we can save $27,000. I'm not sure yet.
Well, thank you very much, Phil, Lee, and Eric, for coming in here and presenting this project to us. I appreciate your time, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Go get some dinner or something.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Next up, we have Elise Woodward with storm window replacement for the Concord Free Public Library. Elise, are you here?
Hello.
I thought I saw you a minute ago. Oh, there you are.
Hello, how are you? And I'm here with Jeff Adams, who's also a trustee with me at the of the Library Corporation Board. And if it suits this committee, Jeff and I'd like to present together tonight.
Please.
Thank you. We're very happy to be on your agenda, so thank you for making time for us. And to talk to you about our proposal to install 40 storm windows in the historic front section of the library. We call it the main building. It's at 129 Main Street. And Jeff is going to begin with some background information, and then I'll come back to me to give you some more details of the project. Thank you. Jeff.
Thank you, Elise. Let's see, Anne, could you bring up the first image?
Sorry, should I use the images that you had sent to the HDC?
No, this was all organized by Heather this afternoon into a sequence of images.
Oh, okay.
Um,
I'll find that email and bring it up. Just one second.
And it's up on the website under current meeting documents. Under October 28th.
has just a bit more information than the site visit. I'll just wait if Heather can direct Ann to that. Okay, is it possible to go to the very top image? Well, if not, we can just go with that. Okay, terrific. Thank you. Let's see. The front section of the library was built in 1873 and donated to the town by William Monroe. In 1993, the original building was significantly, yeah, that's the original structure. And then in 1933, they maintained the interior rotunda space, but significantly renovated the building by my favorite architect, Harry Little, in the Jeffersonian brick style that we recognize today. And Anne, if you can just scroll up to the bottom, yeah, right there in the bottom right. It's kind of, we see the columns in the front of the building that was all redone in 1933. The purpose of our application for storm windows is to protect the 1933 single pane window sashes, which are quite large, and they're now 92 years old. Many of the sashes have dried out and their delicate details have suffered from dried out joints, and we've had to reglaze these windows twice in the past 14 years. So in addition to preserving these original sashes, the storm windows will decrease heat loss during the winter and lower heat gain in the summer, enhancing the building's energy efficiency and supporting our sustainability goals to reduce energy use in the library. So if you just scroll up a little, we have just a handful of the various pictures of the 40 windows we're focused on. And then as you scroll up now, we just have a couple of images of the approach. This happens to be a picture of one of the windows at Fowler that already has storm windows that were installed for the same reason. And those windows are about the same age. And if you scroll up a little bit more, you can see again, these are Fowler windows with Fowler double hung single pane windows with storm windows, very similar to our goal for the library on Main Street. And then last, this is a picture of the townhouse, which recently, during that renovation not so long ago, installed storm windows on those windows for the exact same reason and goal that we have for the main library. So, Elise, I'll let you chat a little bit about the financing of the project.
Thanks. So we did try to show you all of the iterations of the windows in our application. The project is a little challenging because many of the windows have arch tops, and so those need to be individually templated. We received 3 estimates from qualified vendors, and we selected the contractor with the middle price because of their experience and the good value that we thought that would give us. And in our proposal, in our budget, we included some restoration and painting of the exterior windows that we will do prior to installing the storm windows. And we also included escalation because our estimates were received in July of 2025. So we escalated 5.55% at the advice of our bidders because we wouldn't be purchasing these windows until next summer. So that the budget we propose is a total of $73,425. And we're requesting $50,000 from the CPC Historic Preservation Funding. And the balance of the budget will be paid by the Library Corporation. So we're happy to answer any and all questions that you may have.
Thank you. Thank you, Elise. Thank
Yeah,
you,
of
Jeff.
course.
That was really great. Burton and Nancy, no, Burton, yeah, Burton, you're assigned to this. Did you have any questions for these guys? I know you asked a bunch of questions at the site meeting. Burton, okay.
Yeah, I'm starting my video, so I wouldn't be rude. No, I don't have additional questions. I like you said, I asked a bunch on our site visit.
Yeah, the site visit was really great. And I would just like to thank you guys for your super clear, excellent proposal with the photos and the examples of bids that you got. This was like probably my favorite administrative application. One quick question. It says here that you're expecting to get some letters of support on page 4. And I was just wondering if you had any of those yet?
So we've received 3, I think. I noticed that it looked as if your committee has received 1. So the letters that we understood there was a November deadline for letters of support.
You don't need them quite yet. I was just wondering.
Yeah, but that's our expectation, that there will be 3 to 6 letters of support.
That's my question. Nancy, do you have questions?
I just wonder about how much damage are you seeing in terms of the exterior lines and sills and that kind of thing, the decorative trim? Is there a lot of weathering and repair that needs to be done?
I'll respond to that, Elise.
Yep, great.
Yes, thanks for asking about that. And we've been focused on that, and we're trying to stay ahead of it, but particularly on the very tall windows on the upper part of the rotunda, that if any of you are familiar looking up from the inside, will notice a rose-colored glass. And we actually had some of those panels falling out, and they're quite historic. So we've tried to stay ahead of it, but it's really difficult because of the exposure to the weather.
Yeah.
So that's one of the real opportunities of these storm windows, to protect those sashes.
Yeah. So you've counted on those some repairs.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's included in our proposal, some of that. And frankly, it's an ongoing process on the wood sills and so on.
Oh, yes.
We love the building, so we try to keep up with that as much as we can. But it's been challenging on the actual sashes.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Great.
I just want to add quickly that when you put these sealed storms on a single pane window, you get what I've heard up to 85 to 87% of a brand new window for R value, which is fantastic. I think that's great.
That's absolutely true. Thank you for offering me that.
Oh, Matt, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I apologize.
Matt, I'm going to interrupt you for a second because I think there might be a Wi-Fi problem. Can you come back and ask your question in a minute when your Wi-Fi settles down?
Everything was answered. I do want to applaud an organization who strives to have environmental goals.
Is anybody else hearing it the same way I'm hearing this?
No.
Okay, Matt.
Thank you.
He's kind of frozen.
Okay, Matt, you're frozen. We're going to put a pin in you for a minute. Ed, do you have a question?
I
while Matt is unfreezing?
apologize.
Oh,
can you hear me now?
Yeah. Sort of.
No.
Oh, there he goes. All right, he's gone. All right. Well, we lost Matt, but we've got Ed.
Well, just you know, because we have a little bit of time, maybe Matt will be able to come back. I had asked about whether these storm windows would ever have to be taken down in the summer and put up having done this for many seasons in the past. But the answer was no. These are permanent. So it's not really a question, but I was going to kind of fill in a little bit for Matt. So.
Thank you. That's correct.
Thank you.
Well, I'm not really sure what to do about Matt, but we're just going to assume that if he has a question, he can forward it to you guys offline and you can respond and we'll all receive it by email. So
thank you. We'd be happy to do that. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you guys for coming in and for presenting to us. And now you guys can go get your dinner. All righty.
Thanks very much.
My mind is right now, right?
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Bye, Elise.
Thank you.
Bye, Jeff. All right. Next up, we have Holly. Holly from the Concord Museum. Holly, are you here?
I'm here.
More windows. Let's hear about your windows now.
More windows. We want to thank you guys for this opportunity to pull this in. And I'm here with Jenny Gilbert, who is our grant writer. So she may pop in with a few items too. First, we want to tell you that we have had several different experts in to look at our windows in the Emerson study, and they've come up with some conflicting opinions. So we have decided to postpone our grant, if possible, for this year and reapply for next year. We've decided that we need to look at the whole building envelope with a facilities assessment before we come back to you. We're currently looking for a facilities director, which will be a integral part of the team in order to put this together. So we really feel like we need to use a different approach and go with this for a whole building project. We may have to have all the windows replaced instead of just the Emerson study windows. But we want to thank you and hope that you'll allow us to come back next year.
Oh, Holly, of course. But quick question. What happened with the window woman? Weren't you looking at revitalizing your existing windows and not replacing windows?
Jen,
I can, I can answer that. We did get in touch with the window woman right after the site visit, and she said we were a little bit outside of her typical work area. And then we tried to contact 2 other window restorers who had been recommended by the senior architectural conservator who did the window assessment. And without a facilities director, it's just been difficult to get contractors in. And so what we decided to do is we're going to be applying to the Massachusetts Cultural Facilities Fund for an entire assessment of the whole building. And our collections manager is really recommending this because I guess there are some other drainage issues near the Emerson windows that might require landscaping. So we're feeling like we want a whole building assessment. It's interesting. It's another Harry B. Little building. So it will be interesting to see the library project, which is also windows by the same architect, go forward. So I think our approach is it's
More
careful,
holistic.
it's considerate, it's more holistic, and in the end, we'll have a better result for taking care of the entire building.
Okay, well, thank you for coming to present your withdrawal. I would like the minutes to show that the museum is searching for a facilities director for all of those people who read CPC minutes in their free time. But we're looking forward
Maybe
to getting
somebody
a big
will
fat-
sign up and before.
That's right. We'll look forward to getting your big fat application for next year.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Bye, guys.
Okay.
Night.
Great. So that leaves us at last with the Scout House. And is Andy here? Andy Smith?
Yes. Hello.
Oh, hi, Andy. How are you doing?
Doing well. How are you?
Good.
We are not asking for storm windows tonight. Although if you have any extras, we'll take them.
You just prophylactically, right?
Yeah, exactly. No, thank you so much for your time. Hopefully this will be a relatively quick one. Everyone can go get their dinner. So I'm Andy Smith. I'm on the Scout House Board of Directors. We are applying this year to help cover costs for exterior painting, primarily is the focus of our preservation project, to make sure that our exterior siding materials are in tip-top shape and kind of match the level of quality that we see in town here, and that to make sure that the materials of our historic structure are maintained and preserved for future years as well. So we're asking for $20,000 out of our total request, or sorry, out of the total that was quoted to us. And so that 20,000 would be from CPC, and then we would cover the remaining amount, the $2,830 that would cover additional paint prep and administrative fees. I don't know if I can try sharing some of the photos real quick that are part of the application. Let's see. Here's some photos taken from the exterior. So you can tell the level of quality of the paint as it is today on some of the corners, the coins on the corners of the buildings, the exterior doors, trim, cupola. We do have some damage to some of the siding. We've got a significant woodpecker hole on one side, and a lot of peeling paint and exposed wood around some of our window trim as well, and just general flaking of trim all over the place. So we'd be very appreciative of support for this project. We don't have the letters of support tonight, but we'll certainly get those from our Girl Scout stakeholders, our Scouting America groups, which is formerly the Boy Scouts of America. We have the Barn School Co-op, and we have the dance community that does a lot of frequent events there. So it's a community building that serves a lot of different people and a lot of different groups, and we want to make sure that it sticks around for a long time. So thank you.
Thank you, Andy. I appreciate your coming here and presenting to us. And I just want to point out very quickly on page 2 of your application,
yes,
the contractor scope of work is entirely for prep and painting on all three, and then a small admin fee. So with that, I'm going to ask Burton, who is assigned to this application, if he has any questions for Andy.
This one I do, and I preface this with some questions on our site visit. Andy, as we discussed, the CPA has restrictions on when painting is eligible for CPA fundings, and essentially, it's got to be painting is eligible if it's part of a rehabilitation or restoration of a historic building, but not sort of maintenance or periodic painting. And just cutting to the chase, it seems to me that in this case, this is not part of a larger rehabilitation or restoration. You mentioned the woodpecker holes, and there's probably some trim work that needs to be done. But when we look to historic restoration, we'd be looking to, is the painting being done with to the historic preservation standards? Is there additional work that's being done? Perhaps is the building being restored to an original historic color that it's being done? Can you speak to any of those elements if they exist in what you have planned?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, you mentioned restoration. This is what I've seen under the requirements is talking about preservation. And so if we look back at the Secretary of the Interior's definition of preservation, which says includes preliminary measures to protect and stabilize the property, generally focusing on the ongoing maintenance and repair of historic materials and features. So I think it definitely falls within both their guidelines and yours under preservation to make sure that this building stays kind of relevant and preserved moving forward. So I know that perhaps just general maintenance items, specifically like interior things that need to get touched up here and there, I could see that. This is generally a holistic preservation of the exterior materials to make sure that they stay intact as long as possible.
Okay.
I feel like it fits the definition of what you guys have in your project eligibility requirements and what Secretary of Interior has as well. We will be doing as much repair as we can as needed. So woodpecker holes, any trim that's damaged, things like that will need to get restored back to matching its surrounds and its existing and what it was before. And whether there's things that come up during this painter's evaluation of the prep work that may come in a higher cost than what the original quote was, and we're certainly willing to cover that under our own, for our own funds.
Okay, and so do you know? So preserving that's very informative answer. Preserving sort of the historic building. Do you know, is this for example, the color the building has been, and do you know if the painter has done sort of an assessment of, we talked when we were on site, I was a little surprised that you could get a building of that size painted for the quote you've got. It seems to be a really good deal, put it that way. And whenever you're talking about historic preservation, where maybe they're doing things like very carefully, well, just the standard of care is oftentimes there's added cost. So I'm wondering if there are elements there in terms of assessing what color the building was originally. Are you reproducing that, or are there, was this part the historic preservation aspect part of what the painter was submitting a bid on?
Yes, so we do have historic photographs of the building from when it was renovated, or I guess converted from its barn structure into the Girl Scout house, 1930s or so, and showing it in white originally. So it's never changed from its white beginnings. So we're not looking to necessarily return something to a previous color or change the colors, things like that. The painter that we are planning to go with is the same painter that I believe the library uses. So they are aware of working on historic structures and kind of making sure that they are meeting that kind of standard. So I think we have, or I guess we have worked with them before, and they seem to be, up to the task to do all the prep work that's necessary.
Okay, thank you very much, Andy.
Welcome.
That's all my questions.
Thanks.
Nancy?
I think the color is less important than the techniques that are used in terms of sanding, for instance, with high powered sanders and going, that way. But it's a question too of how much, it's preservation, it's not restoration, it's not rehabilitation, it's sort of the necessary tight paint job that's required to protect the exterior of a building. That's important also.
Right.
Okay, thanks, Nancy, and thank you, Burton, for your questions. Ed, do you have a question?
Just following up about the cost, the two other bids were like 3 times as much. Did they have any explanation on why they were, was some other process that they were going to use, or I know one of them said it was Benjamin, whatever that is.
More
paint going to be used, but it does seem like a low price. I remember that when we did the Playhouse or the Players building last year, we felt their bid was low, but apparently it wasn't. The contractor knew what he was doing, because I haven't heard that we're delayed or anything like that because of cost.
Mm-hmm. I haven't heard anything from the other bidders necessarily that would jump out as being, I guess, that they're doing a whole different process than anybody else would. So, I mean, a lot of them are just covering prep and paint. We can certainly follow up with our preferred bidder, and just if there's certain qualifications to the prep work that goes into it. Whether that is the hand scraping versus, powering through it and scraping everything off with the power
Outstanding.
tools. You know, we can qualify some of those things. And if that's something that's needed, we can certainly ask them to do that, and then the Scout House can cover the difference. But at least this request would cover a large percentage of the cost of doing this. We you know, our annual maintenance is, you know, I think somewhere like $18,000 or something for just, you know, general repairs and things like that. So to get a bill for anywhere from 20 to 60 to just paint the place is a big impact for the Scout House. So anything that we can get to kind of help reduce that impact is greatly appreciated.
Thanks. Thank you.
Yeah,
The
thank
floor
you.
looks excellent, I have to
Yes.
say.
Thank you.
The new floor really, really turned out
It's
well.
getting a beating, so we may have to even put another coat of water-based sealer on it again.
Yeah, it looks
So
wonderful.
we've been doing that almost every year as well before then anyway.
Andy, go
Go ahead,
ahead.
Diane, please.
I just a quick question. Does any use of the Scout House require money? I mean, for instance, if somebody has a fundraiser of some sort, as opposed to the dancers or the other people that come in, is there a fee structure that you have?
Yeah, there's a mixture depending on the group. The scouting groups use the building for free.
That's what I presumed. Okay.
Yes, there's no charge for that. We do have to pay the bills, so we do charge for events, so wedding receptions, bar mitzvahs, movie shoots, things like that. We do charge an hourly fee. We had the Little Women filmed there, which was kind of cool. And so we have a regular tenant, that's the Barn Co-op, that leases the downstairs space. One-time rentals go through our admin and can rent it with a contract, just like any event space. The dancers will charge like an upfront admission to get into the dance.
So that's how they cover their costs.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
So that essentially covers the hourly rate of the building.
Because one of the things we always think about when we contribute to an event, to any structure, is that in the future, that's for nonprofits or others, there might be an opportunity for them to use the space not at egregious costs. That
Right.
much like
Yeah,
the library, people can use the library for in a way that is really supportive. So I'm hoping that in your considerations, you might think about that just a little bit. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, we are a nonprofit organization that manages the building, and we rent it out or like have it open to lots of different events that are not necessarily, that we don't necessarily charge for. They tend to be community themed or community focused.
Right, that's exactly.
Events. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Andy, I just have a quick, I have some insight actually on
Okay.
your second quote. I worked with Timber Tech. Scott and Craig are great, but they are not painters. They would hire the painters and mark up the painters, which is why their bid is closer to 60 grand probably.
Got it. Thank you.
I can't explain why the Target painting
Right.
bid is so high, except it does say that you get a previous customer discount, and that makes me wonder if the Scout House has hired Target before.
We may have for some small things, certainly not for the painting of the whole building. So and if there was, and we probably went to them before just because we had some small things painted here and there. And then that's when it was kind of like, wow, 60,000 feels like a big impact for us. And so, I was speaking with my wife, Emily Smith, the library director, and she mentioned the M. Milioli painting that they use. Says he's very good, they're very efficient. They come in and do a great job, and they give us a very favorable price on it. So, and they painted came in and already painted our flagpole for free. So they were
That's awesome.
Just seemed like a nice company to work with. So,
well, that's great. Well, I mean, even if the CPC, which is prevented from paying for routine maintenance, cannot help, I hope you do get the Scout House completely painted with Mignoli, because that is an excellent deal.
Yes.
But anyway, thank you very much. Is anybody else on the committee? We've kind of lost half of our group here. It's so funny, but
I have a quick question, but very simple.
Yeah.
Andy, what's the relationship between the Scout House and the Scout Island in the middle of Warner's Pond?
Oh,
Okay.
interesting question.
Yes, we are, it's a little complex. The nonprofit that runs the Concord Scout House owns Scout Island on Warner's Pond.
Oh. Huh.
And so we use that for camping trips for various scout groups, go out there on the canoes. It's getting harder and harder to use it because the scouting organizations require so much like training and safety protocols for just to get on the boats to get over there.
Yeah.
So that's sometimes a little bit of a hindrance, but it's a fantastic place to camp. I've been out there many times, and you don't even realize you're in West Concord. And there could be seven swans swimming around you, and geese honking, and it's a pretty magical place. So it's very nice. Yep.
That's excellent. Thank you. And thank you for coming and presenting to us. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening.
And receiving us at the site visit too. That was fun to walk around and to see the floor, for crying out loud. That was amazing.
Yes.
So if no one else has any questions for Andy, I'm going to let him go get his dinner. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much for coming. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Wow. That was wicked fast. I can't even believe it. We've technically we've gone through 6 applications in an hour and 15 minutes. I think that's a record probably. And I don't have any other business. I said my other business earlier. So does anybody else have any other business? Otherwise, I will see you guys on November 4th with no more further information about how much funding we have, but at least we can take a look at what our feelings are across all of these applications and where we want to be headed.
Eve, I would
anybody
just
have-
say, maybe just to make sure we all understand where we are in the process. Like, so, and I missed one of these meetings. Have we now been through all of the applications in terms of the presenters presenting, and now we're
That's
in
right.
deliberation? Okay.
We are in deliberations. That's right. Yeah, thank you. So the last year when we had more funding than we knew what to do with, and we had fewer applications, Burton was able to organize us so that we were able to go through the quick yeses real fast and then deliberate on 1 or 2 that we had questions on. And the whole process of deliberations maybe took 1 meeting, if I remember correctly. But this year with 17 applications instead of 7 and 5 million, well, I guess it's less now, which is way more than what we have. I was worried that we were going to have more deliberations, but I know many of us have been running through scenarios, and we'll have proposals for the committee to consider. So I'm less with 3 meetings, possibly. I think we're probably going to be okay for our deliberations. Ed, did you want to comment? Or any new business? Ed, you're on mute again. Ed, mute.
Okay, sorry about that.
Okay.
Just a comment on what Peggy from the Finance Committee said about the buckets thing. I think we need to discuss the difference, of why a bucket works best for certain situations, and when it ends up with a problem, or on the other hand. So maybe we can discuss that, as well as all the different projects.
Yeah, thank you for that, Ed. I mean, I think we're required to put at least 10%. That's like part of the law for each of. And so when we talk about buckets, that's what I think is that there's the 10% bucket. But maybe Peggy will come back next time and we'll explain more about what you meant.
I think Peggy meant, Eve, that there are projects that are asking us to support long range but unspecific uses as opposed to specific project. That right now, did anybody else, at least that was my sensibility about what she was talking about when she was talking about buckets.
I mean, we have no housing projects. It's just a bucket for housing right now,
Well,
right?
I understand that. So
Yeah.
she wanted to make sure we made a pretty clear differentiation, given the amount of money that Delia and Keith in their various proposals are requesting. And so I think she wants us to kind of think that through. And I believe that's what you mean, Ed. And I'm almost sure that's what Peggy meant. So Happy to be corrected, but that was my sensibility.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, that was the point of of us establishing the trust, was to have a bucket. You know, I know Keith is well able to, you know, defend the whole idea, but basically, the money is being spent, and it's just that it's almost like the open space exemption for having to allowing a late application when an opportunity to purchase land comes up. So yeah, I think one of the things that the trust started, you know, when it started out was you know, looking at that the idea that we have to have money available very quickly, and you know. Anyway, so I'm not going to make the case that as well as Keith will do it, but I just think that's a question that we need to deal with, and also on the fact that there are monies out there that aren't being used right now because of various reasons. That's a kind of different bucket. So
well, I want to thank Ed and Diane for calling out the nuance of the bucket analogy to me, because I was not getting that, but I appreciate that. Okay, Burton, do you have anything to add for other business or any questions?
I was just going to say, in preparation for the next step of our process, and Eve, I'm sure you will sort of guide us through this beautifully, but you know, we oftentimes get to this stage where we say, okay, so how do we decide amongst these projects? And like you mentioned last year, it was really easy because we didn't have to winnow any projects. But what I think I'm going to do, and what maybe I would suggest for others, because we haven't been in this position where we've had such a big gap between the applications and what we can barely estimate the assumptions would be, is I'm going to look at the list of the projects, and I'm going to put the ones that I think are yes for sure, and the ones that are, if any, no for sure. And then the ones that I think that maybe we need to come back with an accommodation to the applicant on. So maybe we give them 50% this year, or maybe we ask an additional question of them. But at this stage, I would probably be saying that. And then we could start out our next meeting by saying, which are the ones that we unanimously agree on are yeses? And let's narrow down the amount of the bucket. And which are the ones we need to discuss further just to move it forward. So if you're new to the committee, or you're like me and you sort of go into the next stage and you don't know how we get through the deliberations, I just think it would be helpful for people to have formed that list for themselves as we go into the meeting, just to expedite the conversation, because we have a lot to get through.
Yeah, and
that's my piece.
To add to that, Burton, I want to ask Anne or Heather if they could revise our list showing which applications have withdrawn, and then now what we're up against. Anne did a fantastic chart in September for our September meeting, and I just think we need a revised chart at this point. Okay.
Yeah.
Jeff?
Yes,
Thanks.
I can take care of that.
Thanks.
Thanks. Andrew, did you have a reaction to Burton?
Yeah, it was just a minor point. If we had any another piece of information, that would be great as we look at as I look at that, at least. If there's any obligation to spend, like if we haven't I know historic preservation last year didn't reach whatever number was the minimum that was supposed to be allocated, so it was put in a separate allocation and say this will be spent next year or whatever. If there's any other considerations like that we should know about as we're making that, basically saying like, hey, we've got to fund a certain amount of historic preservation, that's going to affect how I at least look at what we're looking at, and it would be just useful to know. So if there's like a housing bucket or some other obligation that we need to know about, I know there's the minimum 10% is sort of a global thing, but if there's something outstanding from years past, that's all I'd be interested in.
I mean, I don't think that we're required to spend our reserves for any category year by year. I think it's sort of like a reserve from that year where we missed our 10% target. And I just have to say that I've already added up all of this historical preservation applications, and it's just barely over 10%.
Okay.
I also want to add that I had lunch today with Holly, who is one of my best friends in Concord, and also happens to be on the board of the Concord Museum. And she was asking me if maybe they should switch their application from rec to historic preservation. So that might be coming. I don't know what she's going to do about that. But anyway, that might be coming our way too. We might get more information about the Concord Museum, or yeah,
On that point,
Concord Art, sorry. Go ahead.
And Eve, sorry to go out of turn, but because this may be part of our calculation next week, this might be something for Anne to figure out for us. If we use previously allocated historic preservation reserves that were, say, allocated last year, I presume that those counted towards last year's 10%. So do they count if we spend them in this year towards this year's 10%, or do we need 10% on top of whatever we pull from the reserve?
Right.
Right. I would think that it would be the latter. So we can't double dip and double count it towards 10%. So if we let's say, I forget how much we put in, but let's say we put in $50,000 into the reserve last year and we fund $150,000 in historic preservation projects this year. Are we calculating just $100,000 when we're figuring out whether we've spent 10% for historic preservation this year? Something that would be helpful to know, because I have the feeling we're going to be tapping our reserves maybe until they're tapped out.
Maybe.
So, Anne, I'm just going to put that out there. If that's something we could know as we go in and look at our numbers next week, it would be helpful to know that, because it may impact, especially around historic preservation, what we're
I'm
funding.
going to say, I think we have to spend 10% of this year's money, but that reserve that we set aside for last year may not be, we don't have to spend that too.
We don't have to spend it, but if we spend it, it doesn't count towards the 10%.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's my understanding.
And you still have to spend it probably in the area that it was excess.
And you'd have to
of
allocate
course
for this
I mean,
year.
you can't go, yeah, you can't.
Right. But where we could get into a scenario is, let's say because we decide to generously fund projects, we spend every dime of new money this year and every ounce of reserves. And when we look at that and we've used up those reserves, have we met the 10% of new funding for historic preservation in this year? That's what I want to make sure we take into account.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shouldn't
All right.
be too hard.
Sorry for speaking out of turn.
And did you want to comment on that? I cut you off. I'm sorry.
No, I think, right. I think that the 10% is out of the current year, right. And then so if there are reserves from previous years, as you said, Eve, they could just stay there. They wouldn't, if you were able to meet the 10% requirement.
You don't have to spend them, is what you're
No,
saying.
you don't have to spend them.
Yeah.
But it would be on top of the 10%. If we were going to spend them, then we would have 13% or something of historic.
Yes.
Oh, anyway. Okay. I think we're all on the same page.
No,
Jeff?
I don't think so. I think we're.
No? Are you good? Okay.
Yes. No, yes, I think that's right.
Yeah. I actually did the math already, and even with the withdrawal of the windows, which I was kind of half counting on after our site visit, if we could meet our 10% and spend our historic reserves, and we'll be just okay. We will be just fine.
Okay.
So it's not going to be a problem. Jeff.
Thanks, Eve. I think I should know this from our past conversations or my own research homework on the committee, but when will we know, when we have our spend for this year, will that include past funded projects that we were planning to recoup funds, like the Warner's Pond money? Where does that stand? Is that going to be in the pot? Is that in process, or is that a future conversation? And then follow-up question, if a grant goes out for open space and recreation and then it doesn't happen, some of that or all that money comes back, is that money, does that come with a reservation for that purpose, or does it go back into the general pot?
That's an excellent question, and I fully expect Anne will be able to tell us more about that at our next meeting. Right, Anne? Anne has been working very hard to get extension requests from people who are past due on their spending it down their application money, and I think there's probably going to be some news about that.
Good.
Great, thank you.
Bill?
Simple. I may have missed this at a meeting that I didn't attend. What's the guess about how much money we will have? What's the current thinking?
Well, we're still stuck with numbers from last year. We don't really know. I can go ahead and tell you that it's going to be less than what we got last year, because the state match has gone down. But we have some designated reserves, And maybe this could be part of the spreadsheet. Actually, I think it was part of the spreadsheet that Anne put out in September. And when she revises it, taking out the withdrawn applications, you'll see it again, that number again. I have it somewhere on this giant pile of paper on my desk. Here, but
Just in a round figure, is 2 million? Is it 3 million?
it's closer to 3 million.
4 million?
No.
3.
It's
Closer to
close.
3
It's in the $3 million ballpark.
That's right.
Yeah.
I figured it might be that. Okay, that's helpful.
Actually, I have it right here.
Do you have?
Yeah, 3,495. It's about 3.5 million, but that's
About three,
again
yeah.
using last year's numbers, which we're not going to get again.
Right.
And how do you have quickly at your disposal what's in the different pots in reserve?
Sorry, that total that Eve just cited, that does include the amount in reserves. It was, I think, just over 100,000 and historic preservation, and it's 250 and open space and recreation.
250 for historic preservation?
About
100 historic preservation.
250
Oh,
for open
100.
space.
I'm sorry, and
and
250 for, okay.
yeah, there you go. And then reserves from last year were 1.341 or 1.342. And then maybe we'll get 1.8 million, but probably not. So we have almost 3.5 million, maybe, and probably less.
And Nancy,
How do you like
this,
that?
I saw you taking notes. That was 1.34 million, which are general reserves.
Correct.
Those are not allocated to
Correct.
any bucket.
Right. Then 250, 100, and maybe 1.8. So that it adds up vaguely to 3.5. But all of these numbers we're going to get will be still on Anne's chart. And she can.
And 1.8 was what?
1.8 is what we got last year.
What you got last year.
Right.
So that's a combination of property tax set asides and state match, but the state match should come down somewhat.
Yep.
Stuart from the conservation, the coalition, CPC coalition, in his talk at Carlsbad, mentioned that there is some hope that this, there's not going to be a reduction from last year. That the state may be able to find some additional money or something like that. So there's hope for even more, but we'll have to wait and see.
That's great, but they're also getting more communities, aren't they?
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
or mouths to feed.
This we don't know is the whole problem. So
yeah, we will.
Yeah.
Diane?
We will.
Yeah, thank you, Eve. I think one of the things we know is we're not going to be sure, but one of the important points from my perspective is the Warner Pond residual funding out there. We put aside $1.5 million for the dredging of Warner's Pond, and Delia is asking for an additional $500,000, $500,000. And this is not to adjudicate that application in any way until we've had a chance to talk about things. But people in the community said to me, oh my gosh, you're going to have so much money this year. And I said, how do you know that? And they said, because we know that the NRC, and Bill, this is right up your alley, we know that they're not going to recommend the dredging of Warner's Pond right now. So since they're not, and they're kind of, so to speak, treading water on that decision. Oh, sorry for the but since they're kind of treading water on that, we're going to have a lot of money. So I would really like to know how efficacious that particular commentary is. And I would really like to know whether we've pulled back some of that money, even if it's only a third of it or 2/3 of it, because that would make such a huge difference. So I don't know how that gets determined, but I hope we know that by November 4th. And that's Jeff, you were right. You were right in the same alley I was. We were both paddling in the same water. I mean, I just think this is really important.
Recommendation of the Warner Pond Task Force. Bill can speak to this. Sorry to jump in, but which we both sat on, was to recommend attempting 3 to 5 years of adaptive management, no dredging. Dredging was seen, I think, by the committee as task force as prohibitively expensive.
Right.
So on the time, what we look for in terms of implementing an approved project, I concur with you, Diane. I think the task force sort of did not see and did not recommend dredging as a prospect in the future. So that was what related to my last question. I had presumed that
Right.
that had sailed, canoe had sunk, whatever, and
We'll find the right
Enough
metaphor.
of those metaphors. Listen,
Just-
I think I know from my perspective anyway, the amount of money that was specifically put aside for dredging, which is a significant amount, I don't remember how much. My assumption is that's going to come back, and that should come back.
I
There
think
was other money that was put there, but there was other money that was put aside for the rehabilitation of the pond, I think.
absolutely.
And I don't remember, it's not that much. It's not 500, it might be a couple hundred, maybe 200. I don't remember how much, but the amount of money that was put aside for dredging, I think Jeff is right. That's not going to happen. So yeah, that could be.
And I just think we need to pull that money back and
that
put it
makes-
in our
that makes
budget
sense.
now.
That's been our assumption, I think, that would be pulled
But
back.
I don't think it has to be earmarked for environmental stuff. I mean, I think it
Oh,
just is what Concord would graciously call
So-
free cash. Go ahead, Burton.
If I may, so there were 3 applications, one of which
Right.
was sort of general in terms of looking at solutions to the pond. And I think that arguably Delia can still hang on to that money to work through different things. 2 were very specific to dredging. Those would need to be re-granted for any other purpose. So they might as well be returned to the committee in good faith. I think it's appropriate for Delia to say, and I think they're outside the 3-year window, so we could claw them back. But I think in the interest of how we do things civilly in town, it would be good to know from Delia that
right.
those are essentially relinquished. And then I think the last thing we need to know as a committee is what procedure needs to be followed to have those funds come back to the committee and be able to be respent in the current year. So my understanding is that that the funding, those funds are elected, our legislative process at town meeting allocates them to a specific purpose, but that purpose is in accordance that funds be spent in accordance with the grant agreements. And the grant agreements say, if you don't spend it within 3 years, it comes back to the town unless we provide you an extension. Therefore, I would think that once they come back, they are part of our general bucket. But and that we don't need to have the town meeting say these are rescinded and you can spend them for something else. That's my understanding, but it would be very helpful to have that confirmed as we go into the discussions, because I do think that's in the ballpark of $700,000.
Yeah,
Just
I
the
think you're
question I was gonna
absolutely
ask you,
right. And
Burton,
the thing is, yeah.
Is
Bill,
that
I
is
just-
is that the amount of money that was allocated for dredging?
Yes.
There were 3 roughly co-equal amounts.
That's right.
And so I'm saying $700,000, but it could have been 3 grants of $400,000 each or something. I forget exactly.
It wasn't equal. Maybe it was, but I think
No,
the largest amount that I remember looking last time was for dredging. And
That's
the
right.
amount that-
Okay.
I mean, there were 2 big dredging ones and one kind of supporting the development of. But what I was going to say is just to make it clear that our lawyer looked at this when we were talking about recovering funds. And if you remember, we went through a very elaborate process 3 years ago of recovering funds, voting a warrant article to get those funds back, and then being able to use them. And then we discovered we didn't need to do that at all. So we went through a very elaborate legal process that was unnecessary.
Yes,
And
and
I couldn't agree with you more, Burton, that doing this graciously in Delia's, transparently with Delia and understanding that that's what's happening. But nonetheless, I really do think there's an urgency to attend to it.
Sure. So of the 3 applications, 2 of them are overdue. And this is actually the impetus for Delia's extension request, including taking one of those overdue funding and put it toward the boat docks that we heard on October 7th, if you'll remember. So she's already anticipating this request about returning funds from dredging. And we're not using the term clawback anymore because that's reminiscent to the way other people talk that don't live here, live in Washington, D.C. So anyway, we talked about this over the summer, Delia and Anne and I think Anne is going to bring this up and explain what that conversation was. Andrew, can you hang on for one more second? I just want to let Anne say what she was going to say. Go ahead, Anne.
Right. It was mainly what you just said, Eve, just to remind folks that Delia did request an extension for $264,000 for a portion of one of those dredging applications. And then the second thing was that a few years ago, when the CPC did take money back from the Junction Village and then repurposed it for a new project, we were told, I guess, we didn't need to do it in two separate warrant articles.
That's right.
Right. It could have been done in a single warrant article, but it does still make sense to do that single separate warrant article to take.
I think all it had to do was be folded in to our general presentation in the warrant article. I don't think we needed a separate one in at all. And that's where it all got so bollocksed up because, well, we can talk to our lawyer about it, but we don't need to do that.
So Anne, when you say she wants to hang on to one of the dredging things, you're talking about the one that was dredging or other things related to the preservation of the pond, right? Not one that was specific to dredging, correct?
All right, there were three separate applications. One was the general restoration, one was pure dredging, and then the third was dredging and boat improvements. And so she is requesting an extension for just the boat improvement portion of one of those three.
Right.
Yeah. So the first one that was mentioned is the one that's not overdue and that's not specifically just for dredging. So when you put it all into an Excel spreadsheet, you end up getting possibly returned funds from NRC for application 619 to the amount of $232,500. 920 refunding from dredging, it's $250,000. And then if we finally get, Burton wanted so badly the Hayward money for all of the spraying of the weeds. If we get that money back too, we get another $4,300 for a total of $486,799 of returned NRC funds that could possibly be put in a conservation, restricted conservation fund for the future, which is what Delia was asking for. And this is what we were talking about over the summer. Does that make sense to everybody? Like returning funds from three applications.
Partly. There is a question that when this new Warner's Pond Management Committee is up and running, they're going to be looking for funds to do some remediation of the pond, to try it out. Now, I think they were hoping there would be funds left over from one of the grants that you would take back the amount for dredging, but there'd be money left over for them to repurpose that by asking you about it, but asking you about using some of that money for the remediation of the pond.
Well, that might be the money that would have gone into Delia's requested conservation fund that she talked to us about on the first meeting that we had October 7th.
Eve, I don't think that she wasn't thinking that. She was thinking that was simply going to be a down payment on a possible future land, although she didn't have anything in mind. I know that's where
Oh, I see what you mean. You wanted to use it for Warner's Pond. Got it.
Yes, okay. and so there was an amount of money that they thought was available. I think it was about I don't remember. It's about 200,000.
Well, Bill, maybe that's the one of the three Warner's Pond articles that is not overdue yet. That's not true. Overdue.
That is the one we're talking. That's the one that the committee has been thinking about at the time.
Okay, all righty. Poor Andrew. Oh, Andrew.
What is my only question was related to so that money that is potentially coming back from those projects has been talked about two different ways within the committee itself. One as this is conservation money that can just be moved over, or this is general money. And I guess my question was, did any year count it towards the 10%? And does it have to be in one bucket or another? Are our hands tied? You know,
I think that's
there's
what
one
Burton
thing
was
to,
asking.
yeah.
Well,
Burton
it's the
asked
other
that
side of
too.
the question, but yeah, it's a great question.
Yeah,
Andrew.
it's the other. I like to ask it my way. Sorry, it makes it clearer where my head is coming from. Is, are we required to do anything with that money?
Okay,
and how it's treated.
that's a good question.
And it could just be because I recall some years there have been less recreation things, and it's in, you know, that there may be not separate projects that were asked for by the rec department or whomever else those years. So that would be a question if a portion of it is actually required to be.
My only point was that it's mighty convenient that the amount of money that we could be refunded from NRC projects happens to be almost exactly the same amount of money requested by NRC for the Conservation Land Trust. It's just kind of wicked interesting that that works out that way this year. It's very close.
Yes, but that's another discussion we can have on where are we actually. I don't know if we're actually debating it or not, but
Yeah, we ought to hold off. We need to.
Yeah, that's my.
That's
yeah.
interesting. It's just interesting. That's all. Nancy, did you want to add to that? Oh, Nancy, you're on mute.
Yep, I know.
Okay.
I have a basic question. We're throwing around a lot of ideas about a conservation fund. Are we misnaming something? We don't have a conservation fund. Are we creating a new fund?
I don't think you were at our first meeting when Delia presented her.
No.
Okay, so it's in the check out the October 7th meeting.
The minutes.
Yeah, sorry, Nancy, let me send you something, or Anne
No,
can
that's
send
fine.
you.
I can look, but
okay.
But we're creating a whole different category of CPC money. It sounds like.
Check out the, you know what, the video is probably, it'll be about 10 minutes of your time to watch the video.
The video. Yeah.
Yeah, Delia presented her request on video.
I'll go back.
It's application number 4.
So
for the conservation fund.
But the short answer is we're creating a different fund, a different pot of money.
Well, it would be similar to the Concord Municipal Affordable Housing Trust.
Okay. I remember something about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's just terminology that I'm bothered by. Okay. Thank you. That's all I got.
More from Andrew. What have you got? Your hand up?
I'm gonna go eat dinner.
No. Okay. Hey, let's eat dinner. Does anybody else want to eat their dinner? Certainly I do. Okay, we have a lot to talk about, and I'm hoping that I will be more organized to get you all a packet of information before our next meeting, the Thursday before. That's the goal. Packets are coming at you at Thursday before the meeting, and hopefully we'll get Anne's updated chart even before that. Anne, you had your hand up, and I want to make sure that you got to say what you needed to say. Anne?
No, I'm all set.
You're all set.
Yep.
If everyone else is all set, I'm going to go eat, and I will see you guys next month.
Bye-bye.
Next time, meet early.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.